Hey, what's up? It's Cute What If, this side. Today we will be seeing what if Deku becomes teaching assistant. Now before we move ahead with the fic, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. Fortunately, just as you guessed on Saturday, Nedzu's theory about the pain from your quirk's drawback only lasting for a certain PRD of time was right. By the end of Saturday, your pain had vanished, replaced with a lingering soreness that disappeared on Sunday. So, by the looks of it, the effects of this new drawback only last for about 48 hours since you started feeling better 2 days after your drawback first kicked in. That's why you're currently headed to UA the Monday after the Esch attack. Recovery Girl wanted you to come by for a checkup after Aizawa told her about your progress. Thankfully, you get a clean bill of health after the heroine examines you since you're back to normal now. However, you're still asked to take it easy for the rest of the week, just in case, so you won't be able to do anything too strenuous as far as training with Shinsu is concerned. At the very least, you'll be able to help him practice with his quirk, so hopefully, he'll be fully prepared on that end for the sports festival, which is this Saturday. By the time Recovery Girl finishes her examination, homeroom is already halfway over. However, you still head that way since you do want to see your students. Knowing Aizawa, he probably hasn't even mentioned that you're at school today, so no doubt they'll be surprised to see you. When you knock on the door, the underground hero tells you to enter. When you do, the room gets so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Most of the class is watching you with wide eyes and slack jaws. Amused by their expressions, you give the students a large grin. Hey, guys. It's good to see you. Thanks for the card. I loved it. The reactions are instantaneous. Unsensei. You're alive. Of course, she's alive, you idiot. Why would you think she's dead? We were so worried. Thank goodness you're all right. Your grin grows as the kids all start talking at once. Kirishima looks like he's fighting back manly tears, while Jiro is scolding Kaminari for thinking you were dead. Midoriya and Yayurazu look extremely relieved while Ida is trying to calm everyone down. Uraraka and Ishido are so ecstatic they look liable to bounce out of their seats at any moment. Meanwhile, Todoroki simply blinks before giving you an acknowledging nod, while Bakugo just averts his eyes. Aoyama looks especially sparkly, making you wonder if he threw some glitter in the air while you weren't looking. Siro and Mainta are grinning excitedly while the rest of the class have much calmer reactions. Still, you can tell they're all happy. What catches you by surprise is a certain invisible student who barrels into you after jumping out of her seat. Of all the things to happen, you didn't expect Hagakure to be so happy she'd hug you. Sensei, we were so worried. We heard that you got hurt because of your quirk. Are you really all right? Everyone goes quiet, obviously wanting to know the answer to her question as well. Your expression softens as you return the hug. I'm sorry for worrying you all. I promise I'm all right now. Hey, I want to hug Sensei too. In a blink, Ishido has her arms wrapped around you. When you look down in surprise, she grins broadly, and you can't help but laugh. Asui tilts her head and stares for a few seconds before standing as well. Your eyes widen when the green-haired girl joins the group hug. Welcome back, Sensei, Ribbit. Giggling, Uraraka jumps out of her seat and quickly moves to join the other girls. Welcome back, Sensei. And then there were two. Ishido grins at Yayurazu. Come on, Yaemomo. As vice president, you gotta welcome Sensei back. The taller girl immediately straightens in her seat at those words. Within seconds, she's out of her seat. While she does appear nervous, Yayurazu doesn't hesitate to enter the group hug. Welcome back, Sensei. We are delighted to see you in good health. You have been greatly missed. Considering how Ida reacted to Ishido's words, you're pretty sure he would have joined the hug if his vice president hadn't. Honestly, it looks like he still might, but he's currently hesitating about being the first male to do so. Upon realizing she's the only girl left in her seat, an embarrassed Jiro moves to join the hug in order to escape Kaminari's teasing grin. Welcome back, Sensei. A teary-eyed Kirishima enthusiastically waves his hand in the air. Is this a girls' only group hug, or can I join too? You, Uraraka, Hagakure, and Ishido all giggle at his question, and the pink-haired girl quickly motions for him to come over, which he does without hesitation. Ida soon follows after him since it's only right that the class president welcome you back as well. Wearing matching grins, Kaminari and Siro join the ever-growing group hug. A blushing Midoriya does as well when Uraraka excitedly waves him over. The last and final hugger is the most surprising one. With an excited yell, Dark Shadow pops out of Tokoyami's CH Saint and proceeds to wrap around everyone, making Ida shout in surprise while everyone else laughs. Tokoyami just shakes his head while his quirk grins. Welcome back. Fumikige's math homework has missed you. His container makes a choked noise while everyone in the hug laughs stronger. It takes you a few seconds before you can finally respond. Guess I'll need to offer some homework help sometime today, huh? Several of the students in the group hug cheer loudly in agreement, while Ida tries and fails to shush them. Just as it looks like Mainta is going to try to sneak into the part of the hug where the girls are, Aizawa decides to intervene. All right. You've welcomed her back. Now, everyone get back to your seats. As expected, the students are quick to listen to the other teacher, although they make sure to aim more smiles your way before heading back to their seats. In Hagakura's case, she squeezes you tightly before finally letting you go. Once you've been released, you pull off your backpack and start rummaging through it. That was the best welcome back hug ever. Such sweetness must be rewarded. Aizawa gives you an exasperated look. No, a large grin forms on your lips as you pull out some suckers. Yes. The students immediately catch on and start cheering with excitement. You hand Aoyama, Ajiro, Shaoji, and Hagakure 5 suckers each, and ask them to take one and pass the rest back. Aizawa just shakes his head as he watches the students enjoy their candy. Ida and Yaoyorozu hesitate at first, but when they see the other students opening their suckers without being punished, they decide to join in, probably worried that they'll offend you if they don't. Surprisingly enough, even Todoroki and Bakugo eventually unwrap their suckers. The former does so with a blank face, while the other boy still manages to frown even while eating candy. You pull out another sucker and hold it out to the underground hero. Here you go, Aizawa-san. I wouldn't leave you out. If we all have one, then it's fine, right? Rolling his eyes, he accepts the treat and actually pops it into his mouth, much to your delight. It's at that moment the bell rings, signaling the end of homeroom. After waving goodbye to the students, who cheerfully return the gesture, you head for the door, following after Aizawa. Before you can leave, however, Aoyama calls out to you, and a feeling of déjà vu washes over you. We are truly glad to have you back, mademoiselle. These last few days were like a night sky without any stars. Thankfully, now we have your radiant smile back to light up our classroom. Grinning, you reach over to clap him on the shoulder. You are good, very good. Never changed, Aoyama. Without hesitation, you pull out a glittery star sticker and put it on his cheek like you've done all the other times he has complimented you. If you keep this up, you'll have your own night sky's worth of stars in no time. His smile grows, obviously delighted by your reaction. Meanwhile, his classmates are upset that Aoyama got the drop on them again. Diamine! Not again. How does he keep coming up with one-liners like that? They're so cheesy, but sensei obviously likes them, so somehow they work. You win this round, Aoyama. Just don't get CCKY. Aoyama winks at his classmates, looking the definition of smug. You can try, but you shall fail. Sensei told us only one person can get a sticker for complimenting her each day, and that person will always be moi. The last thing you hear as you leave is the other students crying out in outrage. Looks like Aoyama has some serious competition from here on out. Ever since the first day you started offering stickers, Aoyama has always managed to be the first student to compliment you each day. What's even more impressive is he has never used the same line more than once. You have no idea how he keeps coming up with all these one-liners. A large grin forms on your face. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do to back up your bold claim, Aoyama, because if you've learned anything during your brief time at UA, it's that Aoyama never disappoints. Rather than head for the teacher's lounge, Aizawa directs you to UA's conference room after you both leave 1A's classroom, much to your confusion. Inside the conference room, you see Present Mike, Midnight, All Might, who's in his true form, 13, and a man in a trench coat whom you recognize from the first vision you had after waking up at UA, Tsukachi Naomasa. As soon as you and Aizawa walk into the room with your suckers in plain sight, Present Mike and Midnight immediately demand one. You comply and offer the others one as well, but they all politely decline. That's when Nedzu pops out from under the table and asks for one, scaring the hell out of you in the process. Both Present Mike and Midnight laugh at your startled expression while Aizawa just smirks. 13 quietly chuckles while Yagi and Tsukachi try to be polite by refraining, but it's obvious they also thought your reaction was hilarious. All you can do is hand the principal a sucker, even though you'd really like to complain about him almost giving you a heart attack. When Midnight motions you over, you take a seat in between her and Present Mike, while Aizawa sits on the other side of the blonde. Nedzu sits at the head of the table while the other three sit on the opposite side of the table, across from you. Once everyone is seated, the hybrid turns to look at you. I'm sure you're wondering why we're all gathered here today. You tilt your head. I figured it had to do with the Ust attack, but I'm sure you and the rest of the staff have already discussed it since it has been almost a week. But maybe you needed my testimony as well? He points his sucker at you. Not exactly. We are already familiar with the vision you had not long before the attack occurred, and we know about the new drawback of your quirk. What we wanted to talk with you about is the villain with a barrier quirk. We were unable to capture him along with the villains called Shigaraki and Kurogiri. When your eyes widen in surprise, Tsukachi pulls out a notepad. From what I've heard, the villain with a barrier quirk was not originally in your visions about the attack, correct? All you can do is nod. But he wasn't the only new villain. There were several more there in the attack that happened compared to the original attack. I just figured they brought more reinforcements since they knew we were expecting them. I didn't expect for that one particular villain to be important like Shigaraki and Kurogiri. President Mike leans forward against the table. He sure didn't seem too important. Didn't take me long to overpower him. He was unconscious when the warp villain used his quirk to grab him. Caught me by surprise since they weren't even near each other. Yagi clasped his hands together. I was also surprised. Shigaraki didn't strike me as someone who would go out of his way to help just anyone, so that man must have been important to their group somehow. With a sigh, Aizawa slouches into his seat. You weren't close enough to hear what he was saying. He had no interest in saving the barrier quirk villain. It was Kurogiri's decision to take him back with them. 13 nods. By the sounds of it, they were under orders by someone not to leave that one particular man behind, but that's not the most concerning part of this situation. Because of their helmet, you have no idea what kind of expression the space hero is making, but you can, at least, tell that they're looking in your general direction. For some reason, having their gaze on you is making you nervous. What was the most concerning part then? When 13 hesitates to answer, Aizawa does it for her. Kurogiri mentioned the barrier quirk villain being their only connection to the girl who can see the future, when Shigaraki asked why that particular villain was important. It's at that moment your quirk suddenly activates. In a blink, the scenery before you changes, and you find yourself in some kind of bar. All you can do is stare in disbelief when you see Shigaraki at the bar looking at some pictures, while Kurogiri stands behind the counter, cleaning some beer glasses. You watch with dread as Shigaraki picks up a picture of you, and uses his quirk to destroy it. Before you can even begin to wonder how he acquired a picture of you in the first place, another person walks into the bar. You immediately recognize him as the barrier quirk villain because of the messy silver hair. Because he was too far away in your last vision, you weren't able to get a good look at him. The only thing you noticed clearly was his hair. Now, you can see his dark blue eyes and how pale his skin is. As you take in his black biker jacket, red muscle shirt, jeans, and black boots, you're suddenly filled with fear. You have no idea why, but this man scares you. Even though you don't remember ever meeting him, he seems familiar, and that terrifies you. Who is this man? Unfortunately, the vision ends before you can find out his name. A part of you is relieved the vision is over because you really didn't want to have to keep looking at the man. You want to be as far away from him as possible. In a flash, you're back in the conference room, and on the receiving end of several concerned glances. That's when you realize you're shaking horribly and have tears in your eyes. After blinking several times to clear your vision, you open your mouth to reassure everyone, but before the words can pass through your lips, you remember the silver-haired man's face, which causes your trembling to worsen. A soft keening noise escapes your throat as you curl in on yourself, trying in vain to somehow push the vision of that man out of your mind. There are several people speaking now, but you can't hear them over the pounding of your heartbeat in your ears. That's when a pair of arms wraps around you and pulls you into a soft synth. A sweet aroma invades your senses, and you find yourself relaxing into Midnight's hold. While her quirk is usually used to put people to sleep, it would seem small doses of it are capable of calming others down. Lucky for you. The older woman runs a gentle hand up and down your back comfortingly. It's all right. You're here with us now. Whatever you saw can't hurt you. You're safe. You weakly shake your head. I saw Shigaraki decay a picture of me. He knows who I am, and it's definitely because of the barrier quirk villain. I don't remember him, but... Once again, you find yourself shaking as you cling stronger to the heroine. My first instinct when I got a clear view of him was to fear him. I don't know who he is, but he's definitely bad. I don't want to remember him. Her grip on you tightens while you hear Aizawa curse under his breath. It's not either of them who speaks next, however. Unsen. At the sound of the principal's voice, you pull back enough that you can look behind you. You're surprised to see both Nedzu and Aizawa hovering behind your chair. When your eyes fall on the hybrid, you notice the deep frown on his face. You have my word as U.S. principal that as long as you are under our protection, you will not fall into the villain's hands. Whoever that man is, we will find him and put a stop to him so he can harm no one else. Touched, you fight back tears as you smile at him. Thank you. You cannot deny that you're terrified of that villain. Just the thought of having to meet him sends a shiver down your spine. Despite this, you can't help but feel reassured after hearing the principal's words. Even though you haven't known him very long, you know you can trust Nezu when he says the school will protect you. When you see that everyone else present is in full agreement, something in your CH unclenches, and you feel a strong surge of warmth take root there. With these people, you'll definitely be okay. You're sure of it. Not long after you have your latest vision, the meeting wraps up, with you giving Sakachi a description of the bar and the barrier Quirk villain. While he technically already had the latter information, he wanted to make sure there wasn't anything the pro-heroes had missed regarding his description. You spend the rest of the morning in the teacher's lounge, working through the paperwork Aizawa saved for you to keep you busy. Ever since your vision, the older man has kept a close eye on you. But you really can't blame him considering your reaction to your vision. Honestly, you find the gesture to be very comforting, so you don't complain about spending so much time with him at his desk. When lunch finally comes around, there's a knock on the door which grabs everyone's attention. 13 goes to answer it, and to your surprise, you see Shinsu there, nervously rubbing the back of his neck. Smiling, you immediately make your way to the door while the other teachers present watch on curiously. Shinsu, it's been a while. Were you looking for me, or did you need one of the other teachers? He raises an eyebrow at you before replying in a deadpan voice. Yeah, I definitely didn't come to see the Ta who's been on bed rest the last several days. I just thought I'd drop by to say hi to the staff and thank them for all their strong work. Present Mike and Midnight both start cackling as the blonde enthusiastically points at Aizawa. He's just like you, Shouta. He's got the same dead eyes and everything. The heroine smacks the table repeatedly. He looks like he hasn't slept in 100 years. Just like you. Aizawa just stares at them for several seconds before tiredly rubbing his eyes. You idiots make me wish I could sleep for 100 years. Shinsu whistles appreciatively. DMN, that's a mood. Giggling, you motion for Shinsu to follow you inside. Well, I've always thought you two were similar. You both like cats and never get enough sleep. Your words cause the two to share a look which leads to them nodding in solidarity. This, of course, only makes the teacher's laughter increase. After you take a seat at the table, you pull out the bento you made for lunch. Take a seat, Shinsu. There's enough to share. This way we can chat without you missing lunch. He only hesitates for a few seconds, most likely because of all the teachers watching, before finally agreeing. As the two of you split the food, you hear present Mike whine pitifully. Awa, that means no sharing with us today. Midnight rolls her eyes before pulling him to stand. Come on. You'll live. Let's go see Lunch Rush. They, along with the majority of the staff, leave to grab lunch, leaving you alone with Shinsu and Aizawa. After the other teachers head for the cafeteria, your gaze moves to focus on Aizawa, which he immediately notices. Sighing, he pulls out the bento you made for him and starts eating, making you smile. The general department student snorts at the exchange, but wisely decides not to comment. As you're eating, you ask Shinsu if you missed anything interesting. The only thing he can really think of is when he and several other students declared war on Class 1 last Saturday. Apparently, everyone's gunning to beat your class at the sports festival. There was one really angry student that was pretty arrogant, calling everyone an extra. Shinsu recalls. His words make you wince. Ah, that would be Bakigu. He's, unique. I promise the rest of the class doesn't view the other students like that. He props an elbow on the table and leans his face against his hand. After what you told me about that one student, I decided to take a closer look at the class, rather than just judge them from that one guy's behavior. I could tell they didn't really agree with what he was saying, at least not about the whole everyone being extras part. Your shoulders slump with relief. I'm glad. They're all really good kids, I promise. I think you'd really like some of them once you got to know them. With a grin, you add, besides, if you're going to join the heroics course, that means you'll be working more with them in Class 1B, so I think it's good to get along with them. When you mention joining the heroics course, a light flush colors his cheeks, and he immediately looks away. I'm not here to make friends. All I care about is being a hero. You reach over to FLCK him on the forehead, making him wince. Don't be silly. What kind of hero doesn't have allies? Even Grumpy Eraserhead over there is friends with present Mike and Midnight. If he can make friends, so can you. Oi. Ignoring Aizawa's annoyed voice, you continue. Obviously, this isn't a game, so pursuing your dreams should be your highest priority. Still, isolating yourself from your peers won't do you any good. No hero goes their whole life working solely on their own. You smile. So, why not use your time here to your advantage and find yourself some good allies? I think when you're older you'll be more likely to regret not making friends than you will making friends. Several seconds pass in silence as Shinsu just stares at you in shock. Then, an amused grin forms on his face. It's times like this that I remember you are technically a teacher. That's actually really good advice. Pouting, you point a finger at him. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? You make it sound like me giving good advice doesn't happen often. When Aizawa snorts, you turn to give him a betrayed look, and he grins in return. Well, it is a rare occurrence. You gasp, offended that he would dare make such a claim. Meanwhile, Shinsu is quietly wheezing in his chair, obviously thinking this is hilarious. I give good advice all the time. Their amusement only seems to grow at your words, making you scowl. You narrow your eyes at them. I will remember this offense. For the next week, I'm only sending you 2 pictures of dogs. No cats. At that, the laughter abruptly stops, and their grins vanish. Shinsu gives you a horrified look. You wouldn't. The corners of your lips tug upwards into a smirk. Without hesitation, you pull out your phone and send them both a photo of a cute puppy you found online. Aizawa makes a displeased sound when he receives it, while the purple-haired student does much the same. You really want to laugh because they did it completely in sync. Pleased by their reactions, you take another bite of your lunch. That'll teach you to mess with me. There's plenty more where that came from. Unlike you two, I like looking at pictures of all animals. Even though they'll never admit it, your attack did have its intended effect. While the two try to hide it, they are definitely more sullen the rest of the lunch break. Serves them right. At the end of the day before class 1 leaves to head home, a certain Quirk surprises you by asking you for a favor. Hey, can you help Fumikage study for the math test he has tomorrow? He needs all the help he can get, but he's too shy to ask. Takoyami, who has his back turned to the two of you while he grabs his bag, makes a choked noise before whirling around to face you. He glares at his Quirk as he hisses, "Dark Shadow." The rest of the class has stopped what they're currently doing to watch the spectacle. It's obvious they find the pair's antics hilarious. Before an argument can start, you calmly pet Dark Shadow's head, making him rumble with pleasure. Sure thing. Are you fine with staying after school for a little bit, Takoyami? I'm sure there won't be any issues with us using the library. He averts his gaze as he crosses his arms. I would appreciate having your assistance, but I do not wish to make you squander your time helping me. Since you're still recovering, I'm sure you would rather go home now and rest. You wave a dismissive hand at him. Don't worry about it. I'm not that tired. I'm totally fine with staying here a little longer. Let's do some math. Feeling eyes on you, you turn to see the hopeful expressions on Kaminari's, Ishido's, Kirishima's, and Siro's faces. An amused grin forms on your face. I take it you four would like to join the study group? They all pump their fists in the air with a cheer. Yes, remembering how Aoyama also struggled with his math homework when you helped him last week, you tilt your head in his direction. How about you, Aoyama? Want to join too? He appears surprised by your invitation, but his usual confident expression quickly replaces his shock. The blonde flips his hair as he poses. Well, since I am unable to refuse a request from such a lovely mademoiselle as yourself, I guess I have no choice but to join. I'll do my best not to distract everyone with my sparkling presence. Ajiro sheepishly raises a hand, gaining your attention. Is the study group just for math, or could I stick around and ask for some English pointers too? You give him a thumbs up? Sure, you guys can ask me whatever kind of questions you want, and I'll do my best to answer them. Unsensei. Upon hearing Yayurazu's voice, you turn to face her, and she continues, Would you like if I stayed to offer my assistance as well? The more people that join, the more difficult it will be to dedicate enough time to everyone, so I would be more than happy to help. Grinning, you clap your hands excitedly. As expected of our vice president, that's a great idea. Thank you, Yayurazu. A pleased flush covers her cheeks at your words. She really is too adorable, getting so happy about being able to help others like that. Truly a fine pro-hero in the making. Jiru scratches her head. I guess I'll stay too since this seems like a great opportunity to ask questions with both Sensei and Yaemomo being here. And that's how you end up hosting an after-school study group in the Wana classroom. While you originally considered going to the library, those plans get nixed when 18 students decide to stay for help with their schoolwork. The only ones who don't remain in the classroom are Todoroki and Bakugo, which doesn't really surprise you. Hopefully, with a little more time, they'll warm up to their classmates and start joining these types of activities. Once he sees how many people are participating in the study session, Ida quickly volunteers to help you like Yayurazu. Midoriya, who doesn't require much help either, also offers to lend a hand. Surprisingly enough, Aizawa doesn't put up a fuss about this sudden turn of events. Instead, he just makes himself comfortable in his sleeping bag before falling asleep under the desk. At one point, while you're helping the students, Nedzu peeks his head inside to see what's going on. When he meets your eyes, he grins before leaving without a word. Looks like the principal approves of the study group as well. A content smile forms on your lips as you pass the time going over math problems, English vocabulary, and other subjects. This doesn't surprise you at all since you discovered early on, after becoming a TA, that Class 1A is very good at making you smile. When you're with these kids, your smile never wants to leave your face. As long as you stay here at UA, you're confident it never will. The next day, Hagakure approaches you during lunch, practically bouncing with excitement, to tell you her new hero costume is ready. She asks if you want to go with her to the support studio after school to go see it, and you immediately agree. You're very eager to see what the designers came up with, especially since Hatsum seemed interested in adding on to the costume as well. Not long after that, you and Aizawa are called into the principal's office. Since the older man appears nonchalant about this, you don't feel nervous about this unexpected turn of events, but you are curious to see what this is all about. Once you both take a seat, Nedzu offers you some tea that he has prepared before giving you a smile. I'm sure you're wondering why you're here today. It's because I have some good news to share. You take a sip from your teacup. What's the good news? Aizawa scratches his chin. Probably about the dorms for the hero course students being built. The hybrid nods in agreement. That's right. As of today, they are ready to live in, but I am reluctant to require students to live there since it is so early into the school year. He gives you a smile. However, you are more than welcome to stay there, Unsen. Considering recent events, staying on campus might be the safest option for you. All you can do is stare at him with witty wonder. Really? I know you said you were planning on finding a place for me to stay, but aren't those dorms for the students? Shrugging, Aizawa sets his cup on the table before slouching back into his seat. Technically, but it's not like we can't make a rule saying the dorm needs some adult supervision. It would probably be a good thing for you to stay there to keep an eye on the students and make sure they don't burn down the building. Nedzu chuckles. While I hope nothing that drastic will ever happen, I do agree a little adult supervision won't hurt. An excited smile forms on your face. In that case, I think I'd really like that. That's when it hits you. In an instant, the scenery before you changes thanks to a new vision, and you soon find yourself in an isolated corridor with only Todoroki and Midoriya present. This is your first time ever really seeing the two students interact, so you're quite curious to see what this could be about. That curiosity swiftly turns to horror when Todoroki tells his classmate about his upbringing and the cruel treatment of his father. Apparently, Endeavor married Todoroki's mother for her Quirk, so he could get a child with both Quirks whom he would raise to surpass All Might. After Todoroki finishes sharing his story with his classmate, your vision ends, and you find yourself back in the principal's office with both Nedzu and Aizawa watching you closely. Judging from Aizawa's frown, he's probably thinking about your last vision. Considering the kind of face you're now making, you can't really blame him. Before they can question you, you blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind. Is there a way we can get one of the students to move into the dorm early? Both sets of eyes narrow at your words. Nedzu clasps his paws together as he leans forward. If you explain what you saw, I might can make some arrangements so it can be possible. While a part of you feels guilty about revealing this without Todoroki's consent, as an adult, you can't just ignore what you heard and let it continue without trying to stop it. So, you tell them everything you saw. Thankfully, your quirk doesn't attempt to hinder you, so this kind of information must be okay to relay to others. By the time you finish, Aizawa has a furious scowl on his face, while the hybrid's eyes have darkened from his own anger. The underground hero whips his head in the principal's direction. This isn't enough to stop him, is it? Nedzu shakes his head before a strange gleam lights up his eyes. No, but that doesn't mean I can't eventually find what I need to stop him. It will take some time, of course. However, in the meantime, I'm sure I can come up with a reason to get Todoroki-kun moved into the dorms. You nervously bite your lip. Won't Endeavor question why just his son is being asked to live in the dorms? The hybrid rubs his chin thoughtfully. Most likely. However, I do have an idea of how we can make this situation work. Aizawa raises his eyebrow. How so? A mischievous grin forms on the principal's face. We'll tell him that we just built these dorms and would like for some students to live there for a while to see if there are any changes that need to be made before other students move in. A trial run, if you will. As to why we picked his son specifically, we'll just say we drew from a lottery and Todoroki-kun was one of the students chosen. You tilt your head curiously. How many other students do you plan on asking to move in? He gets a thoughtful look before finally replying. I think, for now, it would be best to just ask Todoroki-kun and one other student. Considering what I remember of the students' profiles, there is one student in particular that would readily agree to move on campus. Before you can ask him who that is, Aizawa nods approvingly. You mean Uraraka? Considering she is staying in an apartment on her own in order to cut travel expenses, I think her moving here would definitely be beneficial to her. Your eyes widen in surprise. You had no idea she was living on her own. Her family must live pretty far if she had to get her own apartment. Nezu takes another sip of his tea with a smile. Correct. Since expenses will be covered by the school, I can't see why Uraraka-kun wouldn't want to move in. And considering their personalities, I think she and Todoroki-kun would get along fine enough in the dorm, especially with Unsen there to keep an eye on things. A pleased smile forms on your lips. I'll do my best. So, when do you plan on announcing this whole moving situation? Aizawa scowls. It'll probably take a little while to convince Endeavor to actually agree to this, especially if he's training Todoroki for the sports festival. There's a scary glint in the principal's eyes even as he continues to smile. No need to worry. I will make sure this is handled post-haste. By next week, Todoroki-kun will no longer have to return to that house. And there's no doubt in your mind that Nezu will make sure his words come true, no matter what. As expected, when Aizawa makes the announcement about the student dorms at the end of the day, Uraraka looks positively delighted that she was chosen as one of the first students to move in. Todoroki, on the other hand, just blinks, obviously shocked to hear his name mentioned as well. Doing your best to be subtle, you closely study his expression. While, on the surface, it looks as blank as it usually does, you are able to just barely detect the relief and hope in his gaze. Obviously, Todoroki isn't getting his hopes up about this since he knows how his dad will react. Still, the poor kid can't stop himself from having a little hope that this will somehow work out in his favor. Rather than bother Todoroki while he's lost in thought, you direct your attention to Uraraka and smile at her. Looks like we'll be doormates. I look forward to getting to know you better, Uraraka. The brunette is practically beaming at this point. Me too. I'll be in your care, sensei. Several of the other students seem very interested in living at the dorms with some wishing they got picked instead. Mainta, in particular, is loudly complaining about how lucky Todoroki is to share a dorm with two girls. Kaminari seems to feel the same way, making Jiru roll her eyes in exasperation. Shortly after that, the final bell rings, and everyone gets ready to leave. Hagakure quickly grabs her bag before skipping over to you. Ready, sensei? Even though you can't actually see her face, you can easily imagine her grin just from listening to the excitement in her voice. After you finish texting Shinsu to let him know that you won't be able to train with him today due to needing to go to the support studio, you give the invisible girl a smile. Ready when you are, Hagakure. After telling Aizawa that you'll meet him later at the teacher's lounge, you leave the classroom with Hagakure, who spends the whole walk to the support studio talking about all her theories of how she thinks her new hero costume will look. You simply listen to her chatter happily with an amused smile on your face. When the two of you finally enter the studio, you're both greeted by Power Loader and a very excited Hatsum. The support course student immediately latches onto Hagakure and pulls her toward a nearby table. Your student squeals with joy when she takes in the sight of her costume laid out on the table. You whistle at the sight, impressed by what you see. By the looks of it, it's a one-piece suit with a skirt attached to it. The main color of it is a light gray, but there's also some pink lines running down from the neck to the waist. Her elbow and knee pads are also pink. You're pleased to see a blue CH plate as well, which matches her gloves. The skirt appears to be iridescent, while the boots are a beige color. Hagakure starts jumping up and down with excitement. I love it. Those colors are so cute, and it looks so stylish. With a large grin, Hatsum holds out a visor with little pink wings attached to its sides. You haven't seen the best part. This right here is one of my latest babies. It's a special light tracking visor. After learning that your quirk deals with light refraction, I thought it'd be good to have a support item that would allow you to detect where the best sources of light are. Both you and the invisible girl make odd sounds in response. The pink-haired girl's grin grows as she pulls out the elbow pad with what appears to be a built-in control panel. With this, you can choose whether or not to make your costume visible. I'm currently working on making it so that it automatically turns visible when you're unconscious so allies can find you. While you can't see it, you can most definitely hear Hagakure energetically clap at the other girl's words. That's amazing, Hatsumi-kun. That'll be so useful. I never even considered that for a costume option. As Hatsum basks in the praise, Power Loader chimes in to explain that aside from the CH plate and the elbow and knee pads, the costume is made of a lightweight yet strong material perfect for stealth work. Her boots have also been specially made to muffle her steps so she can walk silently without being detected. By the end of the costume explanation, Hagakure is beside herself with joy, clinging to your arm as she profusely thanks everyone in the room. Unfortunately, she can't stay long enough to try on her new costume, but she can't wait to wear it during her next class with all might. Just as you're about to follow your student's example and take your leave, a strong hand latches onto your wrist, keeping you in place. Turning around, you see Hatsum's trademark grin, and you can't help but feel nervous since it's aimed at you. What's up, Hatsum? Need me for something? Rather than respond, she starts pulling you toward the back of the room where her work table is. Seeing this, Power Loader sighs in exasperation. Hatsum, you can't just pull her around and do as you please. At his words, Hatsum does release you, but you're pretty sure it's because she needs both of her hands to show you something. After a few seconds, she has all the inventions you remember seeing in your vision, along with a few extras strewn out across her table. Her expectant gaze focuses on you. Were these the babies you saw in your vision? They're all ready for the sports festival this Saturday, but I wanted to see which ones will end up being the most popular. There's still some time to work on the ones that didn't get as much attention from the viewers. You give her an amused look. I don't actually know which ones will be the most popular, Hatsum. My quirk didn't really show me the crowd's reaction. I was more focused on you and the students around you. At her disappointed pout, you quickly add, but considering what an impressive show you put on, I'm sure they'll all be really popular. I know I had fun watching you. And just like that, her grin is firmly back in place. I see, that's really the best way to do it, isn't it? I'll make sure that no one can turn their eyes away from my appealing babies. Power Loader just sighs in the background, shaking his head at his students' antics. Meanwhile, you give Hatsum's shoulder an encouraging pat as you grin. Give them a show they'll never forget, Hatsum. Her eyes glow with determination. You have no doubt that the girl will make a lasting impression on the audience. You can't wait to see her in action. Surprisingly enough, that's not the end of the conversation. Just when you expect the student to go back to her work, she gives you an eager look. So, what kind of babies should I be making for you, Fortune Tellerson? Apparently, Hatsum has decided to keep her earlier nickname for you, much to your amusement. You tilt your head curiously. You mean, what do I need in the classroom? All I really do is help with paperwork and grade papers. I don't have a lot of responsibilities. She rubs her chin thoughtfully. What about something for classroom management? You raise an eyebrow at her. You mean handling the students when they misbehave? All Eraserhead has to do is glare at them, and they shut up. There's not really anything I need to do. Taking a seat at her desk, Hatsum drums her fingers across its surface. But what if they act up when he's not around but you are? Her words make you pause. You honestly never really considered that since Aizawa is always around when you're with the kids, but maybe down the line that won't always be the case. Still, it's not like the class is particularly rowdy, so you don't think they'll give you much trouble if you were to ever look over them by yourself. Even though you don't think you'll really need anything, you can't deny that you're curious about what the young inventor has in mind. Do you have some ideas already in mind? A large grin forms on her face. I always have ideas in mind for new babies. With a laugh, you clap her on the shoulder. I'd love to see whatever you come up with. If you ever need someone to show off your babies to, I don't mind dropping by to be your audience. For some reason, as her eyes gain an eerie gleam, you can't help but feel like you've just made a promise you'll soon be regretting. Even though the dorms are ready to live in, you don't expect to be moving in right away since you don't actually own any furniture of your own. However, according to the text you just got from Kayama, that's actually far from the truth. Apparently, while you were recovering, she and Yamada went furniture shopping so you could have what you needed for your new room. Now, you know why she kept sending you pictures of furniture while you were stuck in bed. You had just assumed she was redecorating her apartment and wanted another girl's opinion, but that obviously wasn't the case. That's why, instead of heading back to Aizawa's apartment, you're going to a nearby grocery store to stock up on supplies for the dorm kitchen. While you'll be the only one there for the next few days, you'd like to be prepared for whenever the kids do arrive. Thankfully, the underground hero escorts you to the store, so you have his help in carrying all the groceries home. As a reward, you make him stay in the dorm long enough to have dinner with you since there's no guarantee that he'll eat without you keeping an eye on him. That's your biggest worry about moving out of his apartment. Hopefully, he won't fall back into his old eating habits once you're gone. At the very least, you can still make sure he eats a proper lunch every day aside from Sunday. The first floor of the dorm building is very impressive. You don't think you've ever seen such a spacious interior. Of course, considering this is where the mess hall, living room, and kitchen are, that's no surprise. Apparently, the laundry room and the baths are located on this floor as well. After you put away the groceries, you WHP up a quick meal for the two of you. You don't want to keep Aizawa on campus for too long since Shiro and Kuro are no doubt eagerly waiting for him. Before he heads home, the older man gives you a pointed look. If something goes wrong, call me. If I don't answer, keep calling everyone you have in your contact list until you get a hold of someone. Don't try to do everything on your own. You smile as you nod. I won't. Thank you, Aizawa-san. I'll see you tomorrow. With that, Aizawa departs, leaving you to explore your new accommodations. After checking your most recent text from Netsu, you make your way to the elevator so you can investigate your new room. For some reason, they decided to put you on the top floor of the girls' side of the dorm in the room right beside the exit to the roof. Maybe they're worried about kids sneaking out to play on the roof. Whatever the reason, you honestly don't care since the living arrangements are free. Who are you to complain? When you open the door, your eyes widen with wonder. Inside is a nice full-sized bed with a sky blue and pink mattress and matching pillows. There's a cute white dresser with pink trim by the desk, and right beside the bed is a blue fluffy rug on the floor. On the other side of the bed close to the balcony, you see a mini fridge which you're looking forward to stocking. You are surprised to see your clothes already in the closet and dresser. When you had asked Aizawa earlier about picking up your stuff at his apartment, he told you not to worry about it. So this is obviously what he meant. Did he do this all by himself, or did he get help? What grabs your attention the most is the cork board hanging above the desk. You can't stop yourself from smiling when you take in all the pictures on the board. At first, you figure Kayama and Yamada just put pictures of themselves for fun, but then, you realize there are also pictures of all your students on there. What's more, everyone appears to be willingly posing for the camera. Well, aside from Bakugo, but that's to be expected. During your absence, the teachers must have gone around asking to take the kids' pictures for your sake. They even managed to get one of Shinsu somehow. And of course, they stuck a picture of a sleeping Aizawa on the board for good measure. All Might is also on the board since they apparently got him and Midoriya together in one shot. A part of you wonders if they gave the boy a copy since you know he'd want one. Maybe you should ask him about that later. After you finish looking at all the pictures, you make sure to send Kayama and Yamada a message thanking them for all their strong work. You'll tell them tomorrow how much you love the pictures as you share a specially made bento with them. Just when you think nothing can ruin such a wonderful moment, your quirk proves you wrong. It decides now, of all times, to send you one of the longest visions you've ever had. At first, you find yourself in a nondescript alleyway, watching with horror as the pro-hero, Ingenium, does battle with an unfamiliar man who appears to be winning. The strange man is wearing a dark combat suit, plated with metal armor, and a tattered, BLD red scarf. Across his eyes is a strange face mask. After a particularly harsh blow with his sword, the assailant LCKs the BLD off his weapon, and Ingenium abruptly freezes. All you can do is fearfully watch as the hero tries and fails to move, while the other man slowly approaches him. It's at that moment you realize who the stranger is. You've heard of him in recent news, the hero killer, Stain. Right when it looks like Stain is about to deliver the final blow, the scene changes, much to your relief. That relief quickly turns to dread when you see Ingenium in a hospital room, telling a distraught Ada that he can no longer feel anything below his waist. His hero career is over. Rather than just end right there, the scenery flashes to another alley, and your eyes widen with terror when you see Ida attacking Stain in order to claim vengeance for his brother. The hero killer attempts to spare him at first, but when your student doesn't relent, Stain decides to kill him along with the other pro-hero on the ground, because he believes Ada could never become a true hero when he's using his quirks so selfishly. Just like with his brother, Ida gets immobilized by what you assume is the killer's quirk after Stain ingests some of his BLD. Before the older man can kill his captives, Midoriya suddenly appears to save the day. All you can do is stare in disbelief at the battle that unfolds. Not long after Midoriya's arrival, Todoroki joins the fight, and the three students team up to miraculously defeat Stain. It's after the fight concludes that your vision finally ends. Shakily, you drop down onto the edge of the bed and try to make sense of what all you just saw. Obviously, that vision of Ingenium occurs first. Considering your experience with your visions, you'd say it'll happen sometime this weekend, possibly the day of the sports festival. Your students' fight with Stain will take place later this month. From what you can recall, Field Work Week is the next big thing at UA after the sports festival, so that's likely when Ida will go hunting for the man who paralyzed his brother. The real question here is, what do you do about it? Technically, the battle with Stain will end in the kids' victory, but that doesn't change the fact that they still end up fighting a DMN serial killer. You can't just let this happen without trying to do something to try to prevent it. And what about Ingenium? You can't just let the man get paralyzed without at least warning him. That's when an idea comes to mind. What if you could prevent Ingenium from getting hurt? Wouldn't that solve everything? The main cause for the students' battle with Stain is Ida's longing for revenge. There won't be a need for vengeance if you prevent his older brother from getting grievously wounded. Your past experience with the Ust is proof that you can change the future enough to prevent people from getting hurt. Of course, if you succeed, that means your drawback will kick in. But surely, it won't actually paralyze me. You think to yourself. The drawback doesn't transfer actual wounds, just the pain. I'm sure I would be fine. Determined, you clench your hands into fists. You will find a way to save Ingenium and prevent your students from having to fight the hero killer. No matter what, you'll find a way to make it happen. I'll need some way to contact Ingenium and warn him. You muse. I can't risk Ida finding out about what his future entails, so I need to get the number another way. That's when you wonder what to do about Aizawa. It was obvious that he didn't like your drawback since it meant you ended up with the pain intended for him. Would he be against you risking paralysis to take Ingenium's pain? Since you're also doing this for the student's sake, surely he'd understand. Deciding to worry about that later, you grab your cell phone and send a text to Nedzu, asking if he has a way to get in contact with Ingenium. You need to speak with him as soon as possible. Much to your relief, Nedzu says he can likely get the pro hero to come by you tomorrow without much trouble. When he asks what kind of vision you received, you unfortunately discover that this is a vision your original drawback will interfere with. So, with shaky hands, you manage to type out 2 words that you know will garner the hybrid's attention. Hero killer. As expected, he quickly responds that he'll make sure Ingenium comes by tomorrow, no matter what. After that conversation ends, you head downstairs to take a shower before changing into your pajamas. When your head finally hits your pillow, it doesn't take you long to fall asleep. But unfortunately, thanks to your earlier vision, your dreams are far from peaceful. As promised, Nedzu does have Ingenium in his office the next day. What surprises you is the fact that he's there by the time homeroom ends. Since Nedzu called both you and Aizawa to his office, you now realize that the older man will have to find out about your vision after all. You can only hope he won't try to stop your plan. With his helmet off, you can see just how much Ingenium, who introduces himself to you as Ida Tensei, looks like his younger brother. There's no denying that the two are related. Unlike your vision, he's dressed in casual clothes, making you think he's currently off duty. Like always, the principal has tea prepared as you all take a seat. This time it's around the coffee table where you and Aizawa take the couch while the other two take the empty seats across from you. Nedzu takes a sip of his drink. I've already explained to Idakun your situation and Quirk, so he knows that he's here because he happened to be involved in your most recent vision. Tensei scratches his head nervously. I gotta say, considering the circumstances, I'm not too excited to find out what happened to me in your vision. For you to call me here so suddenly, it must be bad. I'm curious too. At Aizawa's deadpan remark, you quickly avert your gaze, knowing he's looking directly at you. He's obviously displeased that you didn't tell him sooner. In your defense, it's not like you can say much anyway. Noticing your anxious expression, Nedzu kindly starts the discussion about your vision. Due to her drawback, she was only able to text me 2 words, hero and killer. It would seem you'll be encountering Stain in the nearby future, Idakun. As expected, Tensei's face immediately pales at his words, while the man beside you starts cursing under his breath. Wanting to comfort Ingenium, you say the first 2 words that come to mind. Not dead. At that, the tension in the room slightly eases. However, before they can get too relaxed, you decide to reveal what does happen instead. Paralyzed. Silence ensues as the 3 men take in that new piece of information. Tensei grimaces while Nedzu's eyes narrow. It's a scowling Aizawa who breaks the silence. You called him here to prevent him from getting paralyzed, even though that could result in you suffering that fate instead. At Tensei's witty-eyed look, Nedzu explains the other drawback of your quirk, which results in you taking the pain whenever you prevent someone from getting hurt. After he finishes his explanation, the principal rubs his chin thoughtfully. However, there's no guarantee the paralysis would transfer, Aizawa-kun. It's more likely that she'd take his pain and her legs will be numb for a short PRD of time. The underground hero remains silent, but judging by his expression, it doesn't appear that he's too convinced by the principal's words. He knows just as well as you and Nedzu do that there's no way of telling what will happen for sure. Unsen. At the sound of Tensei's voice, you direct your gaze to the pro-hero sitting across from you. There's a serious gleam in his eyes as he frowns. While I greatly appreciate you going so far to warn me, I can't willingly put your health at risk like that. You've never prevented a long-term injury like that, correct? What if it never fades like the pain from the other injuries? Would you really be okay with that? I know I wouldn't. While he has a point, there's still another important reason why you can't let this man get hurt by Stain. Brother. Revenge. With just those 2 words, it's like the temperature of the room drops. The 3 pro-heroes all freeze in place, while a growing look of horror dawns Tensei's face. You can't be suggesting narrowing your eyes. You hold the horrified hero's gaze. If you won't do it to save yourself, would you do it to protect your brother? And just like that, the game changes. Ingenium might not be willing to change his fate at the risk of someone else getting hurt, but if it's to save his brother, that's an entirely different story. Aizawa frowns. That's not like Ida. He's more rational than that. I understand him being affected by what happens to Ingenium, but to actually go after the hero killer for revenge. The principal presses his paws together. I see now why this meeting was so urgent. While, of course, Ingenium's safety is important, we can't just sit back when we know one of our own students will get involved with the hero killer. Now, it makes more sense why you had a vision unrelated to the school. It's because it wasn't unrelated at all. Resting his elbows on his knees, Tensei holds his face in his hands. Please don't tell me my brother will die trying to get revenge for my sake. Losing my ability to walk is one thing. I can't lose my brother. Your expression softens when you hear the desperation in his voice. Not dead. The relief is palpable once you reveal that Eda's revenge won't get himself killed. Deciding you should mention the other lives at stake, you add, Midoriya, Todoroki. A deep frown forms on Nedzu's face. So, it's 3 students that get involved with Stain. This is definitely something we must work to avoid. Aizawa just stares at you in disbelief. You gotta be kidding me. Midoriya and Todoroki, why are those 2 there? All you can do is shrug helplessly. Your best guess is that they somehow knew Ida was in trouble and came to help. There's no way for you to know for sure, though, unless you get another vision about that particular event. The principal takes another sip of his tea. Whatever the reason, we need to make sure this doesn't happen. Even if the students survive their fight with Stain, we can't simply allow it to occur. I think the best way to do this is by making sure Ida Tenryakun doesn't have a reason to go after Stain. Sighing, Tensei raises his head and meets your gaze. As much as I don't like what this entails, I know I have to do something to prevent Tenya from doing what I know he'll regret for the rest of his life. I'll do whatever I can to make sure he never meets the hero killer. You smile, grateful that he has agreed to your plan. I will too. Unlike with the Est attack, I feel like we have a chance of preventing this fight, so I'll do whatever I can to help. With that settled, you do your best to explain what you saw with short answers, making sure to tell them what you think Stain's quirk is. Thankfully, with Nedzu there, you're able to properly convey your vision to them. Unbeknownst to you, while this discussion is occurring, a different plan for how to handle the hero killer is forming in the Turbo Hero's mind. One that you would have never expected. While a change is definitely coming for the future, it's one you never would have imagined in your wildest dreams. 3 days later, you find yourself at the US Stadium, counting down the minutes to the beginning of the sports festival. Once all the Class 1 students have gathered in their waiting room, you wish them all good luck and follow Aizawa out of the room. Just as you're about to walk outside the door, a vision hits you, making you freeze. It's very brief, and you're not sure what exactly the context for the situation is. All you know is for some reason Mainta will use his quirk at some point to cling on to an unwilling Yaoyorozu. That's why, after the vision ends, you abruptly turn around and march right back into the room, confusing the majority of the students. However, when they see the frightening grin on your face, they immediately shut up. Mainta, the addressed student, freezes in fear while his classmates quickly move away from him, much to his distress. There's nowhere for him to hide. Yais. After crouching down in front of him, you give him the scariest glare you can muster while maintaining your grin. If I see you do anything inappropriate to the girls during the festival, there will be serious consequences, you understand? Mainta furiously shakes his head back and forth. Roman too wouldn't. You give him a not-so-gentle pat on the head before rising to stand. Good to hear. I'd hate for my vision to come true after all. I look forward to your performance. At the door, Aizawa watches the proceedings with faint amusement. Meanwhile, all the girls are either staring at you with admiration, grinning, or giving you a thumbs up, or in the case of Ashido, doing all 3. You can't really tell what Hagakure's doing besides bouncing up and down, so you're just assuming she's as happy as the rest of the girls. With that taken care of, you exit the room and follow after Aizawa. When you ask him where he's taking you, the older man surprises you when he says you'll be joining him and present Mike in the press box. Apparently, the blonde wouldn't stop badgering him about it until he finally agreed to act as his co-commenter. All you can do is stare incredulously. Wait a minute. I understand why you're going there, but why me? Aren't I supposed to be laying low? In addition to discovering that the villains know who you are, you also found out during Monday's meeting that Detective Tsukachi wasn't able to find any information about you. As far as the world's records are concerned, you don't exist. After learning this, Nedzu decided to make all information about you classified. The news would have a field day if they were to learn about your mysterious existence suddenly appearing on US campus, especially since you're now working there as a TA. Aizawa nods as he scratches his chin. You are. That's why you won't be working as a commentator. As long as you don't speak into the mic, no one will know that you're even there. At your confused look, he sighs. The first part of your vision happens today, right? Someone has to keep an eye on you in order to deal with the backlash. Your eyes widen with realization. Soon after, a sheepish smile tugs on your lips. I understand. Sorry for the trouble. His response is to just roll his eyes. Trouble Magnet would be a fitting nickname for you. It's only been a week, and you're already trying to do something reckless. You pout at his dry remark. It's not like I was purposefully reckless with the ASG. I had no idea I would have to deal with such an awful drawback. He raises an eyebrow. And if you did know ahead of time, would you have kept quiet about the attack? Pausing, you briefly consider his words before finally shaking your head. No, I would have still come to warn you. I really wanted to help any way I could. Aizawa huffs, figured as much. That's why I'm keeping you in eyesight while everything is going on. There's no telling how things will end up. That's when you both arrive at the press box and are enthusiastically greeted by President Mike. Welcome to the best seat in the house. You ready for an awesome show, Unshin? A grin matching the blonde's forms on your lips. You bet. I've already had a few visions related to the festival, but I'm excited to see what all else happens today. He rubs his chin thoughtfully. I wonder if we can use that quirk of yours to spice things up. Bet no one has ever had a commentator who can see the future. The underground hero smacks his friend on the head. She's not playing any part in the broadcast. No one is supposed to know about her, remember? President Mike pouts as he rubs his head. I know that. If we did do it, I would have given her an alias or something. I know villains watch this festival, so bringing attention to her here is the last thing I want to do. I just felt bad about making her sit here without anything to do. You take a seat in the chair farthest from the microphone and give the announcer a smile. It's all right, Mixon. I think I'll have plenty of fun just watching from here and listening to your awesome commentary. Grinning, he aims some finger guns your way. I'll make sure you have the best time of your life. Nothing beats an event hosted by the amazing President Mike. Your smile grows. I have no doubt about that. It's about time to call the students to the field, isn't it? Go to your job, Mike. Aizawa drawls as he takes the chair in between you and President Mike. The vocal hero does just that, calling out the course classes one by one. Unsurprisingly, Class 1 seems to be the center of attention thanks to all the publicity from the Yust attack. After a few words from midnight, Bakugo takes the stand to give the opening speech as class representative since he placed first during the entrance exam. His speech is very like him. You can't say you're too surprised, considering how confident he is. Of course, he plans to win the whole thing. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, since it's true the students should be aiming for the top, you wish Bakugo could have gone about it more tactfully. Now, all the students are pissed at him while his classmates seem nervous from all the negative attention he's bringing to their class. All you can do is shake your head while Midnight announces that the first event will be an obstacle course race around the stadium. Now, you understand the context of that one vision you had of Hatsune back when you first met her. As President Mike starts going into details about the race, you watch with clear amusement as Todoroki takes the lead after freezing the competition. With the exception of his classmates who all saw the attack coming, looks like your class has a strong chance of taking the top spots, not that you're surprised. When you finally find Shinsu, you have to fight the urge to laugh at the sight of the several brainwashed students carrying him. The purple-haired boy sure knows how to make the most of his quirk, that's for sure. Before arriving at the stadium, you sent the GD student a text, wishing him good luck. You even sent him a cute cat picture with the words, I'm rooting for you. Technically, the week of the cat picture ban isn't up yet, but since it is a big day, you figure you can make an exception this one time. Shinsu took a suspiciously long time to respond, which led you to believe you embarrassed him. From that point on, things get more interesting as you discover what the obstacles are for this race. The first thing the students face are robots, which you recognize from the vision you had of Midoriya during his entrance exam. Speaking of Midoriya, it looks like your student doesn't plan on using his quirk for the race, which makes sense since broken limbs will only hurt his chances of winning. So, instead, he's using his intellect to get past the obstacles. I've always considered that brain of his to be his strongest asset. You think to yourself, sure, his quirk is amazing, but I think his ability to analyze situations so quickly is what's really impressive. With a mind that sharp, he'll definitely go far. It's when the students make it to the second obstacle that you get to see one of your visions come to life. Grinning, you watch as Hatsune makes her big debut, using her inventions to cross the canyon. She makes it look so easy. That's definitely one way to make a lasting impression. You wryly muse, I bet not too many people were expecting a support course student to be doing so well. I don't think she'll have any problems making it to the finish line in time. While President Mike yells excitedly about all the developments on the course, Aizawa just shakes his head, complaining about him not needing to be here. Honestly, he makes a good point. Even though the blonde asked his friend to help with commentating, President Mike has been doing all the talking since the race started. The last obstacle turns out to be a minefield. Rather than cause harm, these particular mines are just really flashy and make a great deal of noise whenever they go off. While Todoroki enters the field in the lead position, Bakugo uses his quirk to pass him. However, Todoroki won't give up that easily, so it could honestly go either way. Not too long after that, you notice Midoriya finally arriving at the minefield. Rather than immediately follow after the students ahead of him, it appears that he's planning something. Strangely enough, Present Mike hasn't made a comment about it yet, too focused on your other two students grappling for first. Mindful of the microphone, you gently tap on Aizawa's arm to get his attention. When he turns to look at you, you wordlessly mouth Midoriya's name and point in the student's direction. Thankfully, the older man understands and moves to look for the boy. His eyebrow raises when he finds Midoriya. No doubt he's wondering what the green-haired student is up to as well. It's at that moment you both find out. All you can do is gape as Midoriya uses a pile of mines and the piece of robot shrapnel he grabbed to propel himself into the air. Not only that, he's flying straight toward Todoroki and Bakugo. No, he's passing them. Now, Class 1A's Midoriya is in the lead, but Todoroki and Bakugo are right on his tail. As expected, Bakugo doesn't approve of his childhood friend's appearance as he fires off more blasts to propel himself forward. Meanwhile, Todoroki is now using his ice to make himself an easier path. Just when it looks like Midoriya will fall behind because of a bad landing, your reckless student uses the shrapnel to hit another mine, blasting himself ahead of the competition. In the end, thanks to that, the green-haired boy is able to enter the stadium before anyone else, earning first place. As Present Mike declares the winner, you find yourself slumping in your seat, suddenly feeling exhausted. Even though you didn't do anything, you got yourself all worked up watching the race. Midoriya's reckless stunt at the end didn't help your nerves one bit. Well, at least, you're not the only one. Aizawa looks like he feels much the same, although he always looks tired. When the race concludes, you're relieved to see that all 20 of your students made it into the top 42. Aoyama just barely made the cut, coming in at the bottom. Poor boy looks like he used his quirk too much, considering how he's pitifully clutching his stomach. You're also happy to see Shinsu there. Of course, you're not surprised. You knew he could do it. After the students' rankings are announced, Midnight reveals that the next event will be a cavalry battle. This time students are encouraged to work together in teams to capture each other's headbands, which are each worth a certain amount of points. You stare at poor Midoriya with pity when his value of 10 million points is revealed. Guess that's the price of being at the top, huh? Good luck, Midoriya. You're gonna need it. Unsurprisingly, the other students stay clear of Midoriya since it's obvious he'll be the one every team goes after. The two exceptions are Uraraka and Hatsum, who both willingly join his team, much to your and his relief. Besides feeling relieved, you're also surprised since you never got a vision about this turn of events when you first met the pink-haired student. Considering how Midoriya often appears in your visions, you'd think your quirk would have shown you a vision about this team-up. Just goes to show that even a future seer like you can be caught off guard at times. I wonder if that's why I had a vision when I met Hatsum. You muse, because her fate would eventually connect with Midoriya's. Although, that doesn't explain why I never got a vision about them actually working together. Rather than dwell on that matter, you instead focus your attention on Midoriya, who appears to be recruiting Tokoyami for his team. Now, that is an interesting choice. You're looking forward to seeing that group in action. When you check on Shinsu, you see that he has Aoyama, Ojiro, and a student from Class 1B on his team. It's not until the camera shows a close-up of the team that you realize they're all brainwashed. You quietly sigh. Really, Shinsu? You couldn't just ask. Well, considering the situation, it probably would have been difficult for him to get people to willingly join his team when he's the only general department student there. Classmates are all pretty much sticking together. While his decision to use his quirk makes sense, you're worried how Aoyama and Ojiro will react to being used like this. The former will probably get over it pretty quickly as long as the team wins, but the latter, considering what you've learned about Ojiro over the brief time you've been at UA, you know he's a strong worker who believes that rewards should be earned. One time, you tried to give Ojiro a sticker when he was looking down, but he politely refused. While he was grateful that you were trying to cheer him up, the martial artist claimed he wanted to earn whatever reward he received from you. Of course, you then proceeded to put a Kung Fu Panda sticker on his cheek anyway, much to his surprise. When he asked what it was for, you told him it was because you thought his earnest attitude was really cute and admirable, and since you like cute things, you felt he should be rewarded. Your words left Ojiro a blushing mess, but he did willingly accept the sticker. So, you already have a pretty good idea about how Ojiro will react once this event is over. You can only hope he won't bear a grudge against Shinsu. Otherwise, you might have to try to intervene somehow. You're drawn out of your thoughts when Present Mike loudly announces the start of the cavalry battle. Immediately, you return your focus to the field below, and as expected, pretty much every team goes after Midoriya's team. By the looks of it, his strategy involves avoiding the other teams and hanging onto his headband, which makes sense since that 10 million automatically assures first place to whichever team that has it. It doesn't take you long to figure out why Hatsune wanted to join Midoriya's group. When you see the team put her inventions to use, you realize that his team would be the perfect one to showcase her babies since everyone will be watching the team with 10 million points. You grin. Very clever. As expected of Hatsune. Unlike most of the other groups, Shinsu's team doesn't go after Midoriya's. No, his goal is to go after the other teams that aren't expecting him. He's doing a good job staying under the radar, you must say. When you eventually pull your gaze away from Shinsu's team, it soon falls on Minta's team, which is probably the most amusing team, at least as far as teams consisting of one students are concerned. Basically, he and Asui are hiding in Xiaoji's arms, while the taller student runs after the other teams. It's a sound strategy since it means getting his team's headbands will be difficult. Just as you think that, you happen to see one of the Class 1B students, a girl with vines for hair, use her quirk to sneak past Xiaoji's arms to grab a headband. Well, that's a bummer. When your eyes fall on Hagakure's team, you pause and stare blankly for several seconds. Despite how many times you blink, the sight doesn't change, leading you to hide your face in your hands. Why isn't Hagakure wearing a top? What kind of strategy is she using? As long as they see the headband, it doesn't really matter if they can't see the rest of her, right? What is she thinking? Poor Kuda, Satu, and Jiru look so embarrassed. After some particularly loud cursing, which could only belong to Bakugo, you look for his team and see that a Class 1B student stole your student's headband. Wasn't expecting that. Apparently, the student who stole the headband has a copy quirk that allows him to copy the quirks of others. According to Present Mike, his name is Monomanito. Unfortunately, you can't hear what the students are saying, but whatever Monoma says pisses Bakugo off, not that you're surprised. Pretty much everything pisses him off. You kinda pity the Class 1B student. While you admire his strategy and skills, going after your head-headed student was a big mistake. Now, he'll be the target of Bakugo's ire, and that is not a good thing at all. When you turn to check on Midoriya's team, you see that they're cornered with Todoroki's team still gunning for them. The ice user really did pick a well-rounded team. Kaminari is perfect for offense while Yaoyorozu can create the perfect defense. Ida's speed is also a perfect asset for the team. After a well-executed electric attack from Kaminari, Todoroki freezes the other teams that try to attack and proceeds to steal their headbands. Unfortunately, Midoriya's team is stuck where they are, so all they can do is defend their little corner. They're really working poor Dark Shadow strong. Dealing with all those electric attacks can't be pleasant. You'll have to give him some Twizzlers later to reward him for all his strong work. That's when something very surprising happens. You watch wide-eyed as Ida pulls off a very impressive move that results in Todoroki stealing the 10 million headband after their team dashes past Midoriya's at an incredible speed. Since when has Ida been able to do such a cool move? A worried frown forms on your face when you check the clock. There's only a minute left. Midoriya's team doesn't have enough time to go after other teams. His only chance of getting through this round is by going after Todoroki's team. It's at that moment Bakugo's team manages to reclaim some headbands from a shocked Monoma. However, the hothead isn't done with the other team just yet. Team Bakugo goes back in for the kill to steal Monoma's remaining headband, securing their place in the top 4 while the other team loses all their points. With only 20 seconds on the clock, you watch with bated breath as Midoriya's team makes their final charge against Todoroki's. Much to your surprise, the stoic student actually activates the left side of his quirk when Midoriya goes in for the attack. On the edge of your seat, you watch with glee when the green-haired boy manages to snatch a headband, but when you check the board, you're disappointed to see it was only worth 70 points. Now, there are only 10 seconds on the clock. Midoriya makes a last-ditch effort to go after Todoroki, but time runs out before he can reach the other boy. However, you do notice Dark Shadow make a move toward the opposing team. Feeling hopeful, you turn to the board and are delighted when you see that the quirk managed to steal a headband with enough points to put Midoriya's team in 4th place. That's when you notice who placed 3rd. A large grin forms on your face when you see Shinsu's name on the board. Somehow, he managed to remain under the radar the whole round and steal enough headbands to get his team into 3rd place. Even Present Mike sounds shocked when he announces that the purple-haired boy's team got 3rd, much to your amusement. You chuckle. Now, that's what I call a plus ultra performance. After the results are announced, the 1-hour lunch break begins. You and Present Mike have to team up to drag Aizawa to get some food since he only seems interested in napping during the break. Rather than immediately get in line with the 2 pro heroes, you first head over to where you see your students sitting, so you can congratulate them on their strong work. For some reason, no matter how strong you look, you can't find Midoriya nor Todoroki, making you wonder if this is when Todoroki tells his classmate about his past. Strangely enough, you don't see Bakugo either. While you have an idea of where the other two are, you have no clue where he could be. You hope he's not skipping lunch for some reason. When you reach your destination, it's just in time to hear Mineta tell the girls that they're supposed to dress as cheerleaders during the recreational activities that happen after lunch. When you see a grinning Kaminari standing behind his G-haired classmate, you realize they're trying to trick their female classmates. Annoyed, you tap on Siro's shoulder to get his attention. "Siro, may I have some tape? There's a certain G that needs to be muffled." He grins broadly. "Sure thing, sensei." Without hesitation, your student shoots some tape out of his elbow and hands it over to you. After you express your gratitude, you grab the tape and make your way over to the G-haired student. Before Mineta can realize what kind of trouble he's in, you quickly lean over to slap the tape over his mouth, relishing the way his eyes widen in horror at the sight of your large grin. "Mineta, I thought I told you to be on your best behavior today. Why are you trying to deceive your classmates?" He releases a muffled scream as he quickly shakes his head back and forth. Both Ishido and Jiru snort loudly at his reaction while Hagakure and Uraraka start giggling. Noticing the way Kaminari is trying to slowly back away, you fix your gaze on him, making him freeze in fear. You narrow your eyes and reach out to pull on his cheeks, eliciting a loud yelp from the blonde. "Kaminari, you should know better. Tricking your classmates like that is not good. I agree the girls would look cute in cheerleader uniforms, but you should take their feelings into consideration." In the background, Siro is laughing along with Kirishima and Satu as Mineta struggles to remove the tape on his mouth. After a few seconds pass like this, you finally release Kaminari, who sullenly apologizes. "Sorry, sensei." With a huff, you wave him off, so he can go eat his food. You then shove the G-haired student in Siro's direction. "Siro, make sure he stays away from the girls. Tape him down to his chair if necessary." After he gives you a thumbs up in response, you turn to the girls and see Yaoyorozu's eyes sparkling with admiration. "Thank you so much, and sensei, if you hadn't interfered, I would have fallen for Mineta-san's nefarious plot. I am grateful that you showed up when you did." Jiru gives you a grateful look. "Thanks, sensei. You're seriously my hero. That would have been so embarrassing. I don't even want to imagine it." While she cringes at the thought, her invisible classmate giggles. "I don't know. I think it would have been fun." Asui tilts her head. "So, Torichin likes that kind of thing." "I don't think it would have been too bad." Ashido grins as she agrees with Hagakure. "It probably would have been a fun way to get us pumped for the rest of the festival." Yaoyorozu doesn't seem to agree, but she does offer to make the other girls cheerleader uniforms if they wish to cheer during the recreational activities. Since Hagakure and Ashido are the only ones really interested, in the end, the girls decide to nix the idea. To be honest, you half expected Uraraka to be on board as well, but judging from her tense expression, you think her mind is too focused on the next part of the festival to really care about cheerleading. She jolts in surprise when you gently ruffle her hair. "Sensei," you grin at her witty-eyed expression. "You did a great job during the race and cavalry battle, Uraraka. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next event. I know you'll do great." Her shoulders relax as a small smile forms on her face. "Thank you, sensei. I'll do my best." Just as you leave to get your own food, you feel something across your shoulders. A familiar voice whines close to your ear as you come to a halt. "Fumikage really worked me strong during the cavalry battle. Did you see how many hits I had to take? Kids these days are so violent." Snorting, you reach up to pet Dark Shadow on the head. "They sure are. Good thing Midoriya's team had you looking out for them, Dark Shadow. You were awesome." He chirps happily when you pull out some Twizzlers for him. "This is why I love you. I'm glad someone around here knows how to properly show some appreciation. You should give Fumikage some pointers. I keep trying to convince him to start carrying treats, but he won't listen." You giggle as you move toward Takoyami's table while the Quirk enjoys his treat. Unsurprisingly, your student's eyes are already on you, watching Dark Shadow with exasperation. When you arrive at the table he's sharing with Kuda and Shaoji, who wave and nod at you respectively, Takoyami bows his head in your direction. "I apologize, sensei. Even though I told him not to disturb you, he wouldn't rest until he got the chance to speak with you. I see now he had ulterior motives behind his actions." The aven-headed student glares at his Quirk as the shadow creature munches on one of the Twizzlers you gave him. Despite his vessel's obvious irritation, Dark Shadow appears completely unperturbed, too happy with his candy to care about anything else. Shaoji chuckles at the sight before creating a mouth on one of his arms. "I don't think there's any point trying to scold him, Takoyami." Dark Shadow looks way too happy to care about feeling guilty. Judging from the way Kuta's shoulders shake, it's obvious he's trying not to laugh out loud. When he catches you smiling at him, the shy boy immediately looks down at his food with a faint blush coloring his cheeks. Even though you've never had an actual conversation with Kuta, you can't help but feel incredibly fond of him. He's just so adorable, acting all shy despite being the second tallest kid in your class. Hey, can I have some more candy? I need to replenish my strength if I'm gonna help Fumigage win this thing. Dark Shadow grins at you shamelessly, hoping for more treats, while Takoyami gives the shadow creature an annoyed look. Have you no shame? Don't take advantage of Sensei's kindness, Dark Shadow, it's unsightly. Now, hurry up and release her so she can eat her lunch in peace. Grumbling, the Quirk obeys his vessel, but he perks up when you give him a final head scratch. I'll tell you what, if you and Takoyami do well in the last event, I'll be happy to give you both more candy. All right, it's a deal. The shadow creature crows with delight before disappearing into Takoyami's ch. Your student shakes his head with a sigh. Once again, I apologize. While I appreciate your generosity, you really don't have to go through all that trouble, Sensei. Just the feeling of victory itself will be rewarding enough. Smiling, you reach over to clap him on the shoulder while setting some candy down on the table in front of him. It's fine, Takoyami. I'd be happy to share more candy if it means I get to see you and Dark Shadow looking all cool like you did in the cavalry battle. His feathers ruffle upwards in a clear sign of embarrassment, while his two classmates snicker at his reaction. The avian-featured student quickly averts his gaze. Roman 2c. After you pull your hand away, you dig through your bag and pull out a sucker for Shaoji, who receives it with a raised eyebrow. You grin. I thought your idea for the cavalry battle was really clever. It was really cool watching you running around while carrying both Mainta and Asui. That's some impressive strength you have, Shaoji. A grinning mouth forms on his arm. I wouldn't have thought of it if Mainta hadn't approached me first. It's unfortunate we were unable to win in the end. When you hand some sweet tarts to Kuta, he tilts his head in confusion. You rub the back of your head. Well, considering Hagakure strategy, I thought you deserved a reward for hanging in there. That had to have been awkward for you. Blushing bright red, the shy boy immediately hides his face in his hands, while his classmates give him sympathetic looks. Maybe you shouldn't have brought it up. He was probably trying to forget that it happened. You gently pat him on the shoulder before taking your leave, so the boys can get back to their meals. Unsurprisingly, your earlier actions didn't go unnoticed, meaning that Shiro, Kirishima, and Satu are now giving you expectant looks. Amused, you give the first two candy for winning, while Satu's is for the same reason as Kuta. When you notice Kaminari pouting, you roll your eyes before handing him a sucker. He did win, so while his earlier actions annoyed you, you think he has learned his lesson enough to earn a treat for doing well. He grins broadly, thanking you profusely as he accepts the candy. Mainta sits not too far away, doing his best to avoid eye contact. Sighing, you wordlessly drop some G-candy onto his table before heading back toward the girls. It wouldn't be fair if you rewarded Shaoji but not Mainta, especially since the G-haired boy's scheme with the uniforms really wasn't that bad. So, you'll have mercy on him since it is a special day. After all the girls get some candy, you head for the lunch line, passing by Ojiro and Aoyama in the process. While the sparkly student accepts his reward without complaint, you hesitate to offer one to the martial artist, considering his situation. Ojiro immediately notices your hesitation and softly smiles. Looks like you already know what I want to say. I'm sorry, Sensei. It just doesn't feel right to accept it. The corners of your lips tug downwards. Unfortunately, there really isn't anything you can say to make him feel otherwise. It's true he got this far because Shinsu brainwashed him, but you really don't think that should invalidate all the strong work Ojiro put in to get him to the cavalry battle. Still, you can't tell him how he should or shouldn't feel. This is Ojiro's choice, not yours. I understand. I won't push it on you. You tilt your head as you ask the question that's been in the back of your mind since Shinsu brainwashed your student. Are you mad about what happened in the cavalry battle? He clenches his fists as he looks down. I am. I wanted to get to this point through my own power, but I'm only here because I was manipulated. I can't even remember what happened until near the end. I just can't accept it. Just as you expected. Knowing him, Ojiro will probably try to forfeit rather than continue on into the next event. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can think of to say to make him reconsider. Rather than do that, you decide to ask another question. Do you dislike Shinsu now? Because of what he did? The martial artist sighs. I know I shouldn't since he technically didn't do anything that was against the rules, but I can't help but feel bitter. Forcing others to do your bidding is far from heroic. Did he really have to brainwash the three of us? If he asked you to help him, would you have, you ask? At his surprised look, you continue. Shinsu was the only general department student there. While all the Class 1A and 1B students were teaming up with each other, he didn't have that option. I agree he should have asked, but in all likelihood, he probably wouldn't have gotten anyone to agree. Ajiro frowns. Even so, I don't agree with what he did. It wasn't right. Sighing, you reach out and give his shoulder a squeeze. I understand. You have every right to feel that way. I'm just providing you another perspective, that's all. I really hope you won't hold a grudge against him, though. Shinsu wants to be a hero just as much as you and the others do. He tilts his head. Sensei, do you know Shinsu? You nod. I met him the first week I was here. Despite how he might seem, Shinsu's a good guy, I promise. I truly believe he'll be a great hero. His expression turns contemplative for a few seconds before a small smile forms on his lips. While I may not like him at the moment, I do trust you, Sensei. So, I'll try not to hold a grudge against him. It'd be bad for a hero to hold one against another hero, right? Grinning, you ruffle his hair, making the boy blush, before dropping a Kit Kat in his lap. Before he can refuse it, you quickly walk away. That's the spirit. Ajiro, finally, you enter the lunch line and grab some food for your growling stomach. While you have no idea where Aizawa and Present Mike ended up, you do see a certain purple-haired student sitting by himself in a far corner booth. By the looks of it, Shinsu has already eaten since he's just resting his head in his arms now. He jerks in surprise when you place your tray on the table and take a seat across from him. Once he realizes who has joined him, the GD student returns his head back to its previous position. Oh, it's just you. Pouting, you reach over to pinch his ear, making him wince. What kind of greeting is that? And here I was coming to give you some nice company, you ungrateful brat. Shinsu yawns before giving you his trademark half-lidded stare. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for blessing me with your presence. I'm so honored. You roll your eyes before digging into your meal. You're even more snarky than usual. Did brainwashing all those kids wear you out that much? He waves a dismissive hand in your direction. I'm fine. It's no big deal. I mainly just had them carrying me so it wasn't that much of a strain. Several minutes pass in silence as you eat while the boy dozes in his seat. Surprisingly enough, he's the one who eventually breaks the silence. So, what did you think? His words make you pause with your chopsticks hanging right in front of your mouth. When you lower your hand, your gaze moves to focus on Shinsu, who's looking to the side instead of at you. It takes you a minute before you realize what he's asking. Then, a large grin forms on your face. I thought you did great, Shinsu. I thought it was hilarious how you handled the race, and it was great how you snuck up on everyone in the cavalry battle. You caught everyone by surprise. You were really cool. The purple-haired student buries his face further into his arms, but you don't miss the way the tips of his ears turn red. Thanks. Your expression softens. You really do hope Ojiro will come to realize the kind of person Shinsu really is. You hope everyone does. After lunch comes to an end, you're back in the press box with Present Mike and Aizawa, watching the students participate in the recreational activities. While they don't last for a long time, you admit it's fun to watch. As you predicted, Ojiro forfeits, claiming it didn't feel right for him to continue onward when he didn't even remember what happened during the cavalry battle. You were surprised, however, when the Class 1B student from his team also withdrew, apparently feeling the same as your student. When the matches for the final event are announced, you aren't surprised to see that Midoriya and Shinsu will be fighting. Although, you definitely didn't expect their battle to be the first one. The corners of your lips dip downwards. That means Shinsu won't make it any further. While of course I want Midoriya to win, I was also hoping Shinsu would be able to stay in the tournament longer to make more of an impression. Still, the fact that Aizawa-san does eventually start training him means that Aizawa-san did see potential in Shinsu from this battle and his earlier performances. All you can do is stare as the fight goes exactly like it had in your vision. Although, is it your imagination, or is Shinsu not doing as much yelling as he did in your vision? While you can't actually hear what he's saying, it doesn't seem like the GD student is going by the same script as your vision. Maybe it's because of what you told him on the day you met him. Rather than wait to see how the match ends, you rise from your seat and start heading for the door. Thankfully, Aizawa doesn't try to stop you. He probably knows exactly where you're going. A few minutes later, you find yourself in the hallway, waiting for Shinsu to emerge from the outside entrance. When he does, you're surprised to see that he doesn't appear as upset as you expected. While you can detect some frustration, there's also something relaxed about his expression, making you wonder if something happened after he lost. When his gaze falls on you, Shinsu raises an eyebrow. Would have been nice to have a little warning, you know? If I had known about his crazy strength, I would have worked on getting some abs of steel so those punches would hurt less. You snort at his remark. You'd need more than just a few weeks to get some of those. Plus, I think you'd need a steel quirk like that 1B student if you really want to stop those punches. He shrugs his shoulders. You're probably right. That's something I'll need to work on. My quirk won't get me out of every jam after all. The two of you start walking toward the entrance leading to the stands. Before you can think of something to say to break the silence, Shinsu sighs. I have a long way to go. Huh? Shaking your head? You gently elbow him in the side. Not as long as you think. You're getting there, Shinsu. You may not have gotten past the top 16, but you did make it this far. That's really impressive. Just keep at it. That strong work of yours will pay off. I know it. You catch the GD student by surprise when you wrap your arms around him in a hug. Despite you being older, he's actually a little bit taller than you. He's at just the right height where you can prop your chin on his shoulder. You did great, Shinsu. I'm really proud of you. The tension in his frame eases at your words before he slowly returns the embrace. Hesitant at first, after a few seconds, his grip tightens before he buries his face in your shoulder. Thank you, Sensei, for everything. After a few minutes, Shinsu pulls away, quickly averting his gaze to the side. Better go see how the rest of the matches go. Nodding, you give him a smile before making your way back to the press box. I'll be in the press box if you need me, Sensei. When you pause and look curiously over your shoulder, you see the GD student frowning. Before you can question him, he continues, Is something wrong? The last 3 days you've been acting strange kinda like you did before the Est was attacked. I've been meaning to ask, but I've been distracted by the festival. His words make you stiffen, which he immediately notices. His eyes narrow suspiciously. What's going on? Sighing, you run a hand through your hair. It's not a villain attack if that's what you're worried about. It's something else, and it's likely the event will happen sometime today. I just don't know when for sure. Shinsu's frown deepens. Are you gonna get injured like last time? Is it that bad? You wince at the question. While I won't know for sure what kind of pain it will be, it'll likely be on the same level as the Est attack. Noticing the clear worry in his eyes, you do your best to look reassuring. I'll be okay, Shinsu. I promise I'll take it easy. I'll even text you later to show that I'm alright. Reluctantly, he nods his head. Alright. Just don't overdo it. Call me if you need any help. Your expression softens as you smile. I will. Thank you. Once you've assured Shinsu that you'll be okay, the two of you part ways, with Shinsu heading for the stands while you return to the press box. Thanks to Shinsu, you've been reminded of what's to come in the near future. While you were able to distract yourself with the festivities, you now realize there's not much time left. After some discussion with Nedzu, he came up with the theory that the pain kicks in around the time whenever the person, who is supposed to feel it, gets hurt during the original event. You have no idea when Ingenium was supposed to get injured, but you know it'll be sometime this afternoon. If the plan succeeds, the Turbo Hero will be able to avoid running into Stain, meaning all the pain he would have felt from the attack will transfer to you. There's also a chance of the paralysis transferring as well, but you're pretty confident that it won't. At the very least, you don't think it will last more than a few days. When you finally arrive at the press box, you discover that you completely missed the second and third matches. According to Aizawa, they were both pretty quick, with Todoroki beating Shiro, while Shiozaki Ibara, the vine-haired student from 1B, defeated Kaminari. Amusingly enough, the next match is the one you could have afforded to miss since you already saw Hatsume's match with Ida in your vision. All you can do is shake your head as she makes use of the fight to show off her inventions before finally forfeiting. Poor Ida. The next two matches don't last particularly long. Ashido makes quick work of Aoyama after shooting acid at his belt, while Takoyami overwhelms Yayurazu with Dark Shadow, giving her no time to make anything to counterattack. Her despondent expression at the end of the match really pulls at your heartstrings. In the next match, you watch Kirishima and the Class 1B student, Tetsu, duke it out. The fight ends up lasting a good while since their quirks are so similar. What is up with that kid's name, though? You idly wonder. Why would you name your kid that? It's such a mouthful. Poor Tetsu. Eventually, the match does come to an end when both fighters pass out, resulting in a draw. Apparently, they'll have an arm wrestling match after they wake up to see who will move on to the next round. That'll definitely be interesting to watch. That's when you see who's up next, and you can't help but cringe. In your defense, it's not because you think Uraraka is weak, but it's more because you know how violent Bakugo can be. He's not the type to go easy on girls, which is a good thing, because he shouldn't. It would be an insult to the girls if he did. Honestly, you'd be worried about anyone fighting Bakugo since he's not just crazy strong. He's also incredibly smart. It always boggles your mind that such a smart kid can't figure out that the way he treated Midoriya when they were kids is the exact opposite of how a hero should act. Sure, the adults were partially responsible for never scolding him, but shouldn't he have had enough common sense to figure out that using his quirk against another kid was wrong? You really don't understand Bakugo. However, you're hoping as time passes that you will. You want to believe that deep down he's got what it takes to be a kind-hearted hero. A hero who saves rather than just hurts his opponents. The match ends with Bakugo's victory, but Uraraka didn't let him have it easily. Her strategy was really impressive. You were on the edge of your seat the whole time. She came so close to beating him, but in the end, the hothead managed to overpower her, blasting away her last-ditch effort to stop him. Hopefully, the poor girl won't take this loss to heart. She did a wonderful job, so she has nothing to be ashamed of. Considering how Bakugo reacted to her near the end of the fight, you're pretty sure he feels the same. After that match ends, Kirishima and Tetsutetsu come back onto the field in order to have their arm wrestling match. It's a close one, but eventually, the redhead is the victor. Much to your delight, you're always happy to see your students succeed. The second round begins with Midoriya fighting against Todoroki. Now, this will definitely be an interesting match. And it is, but interesting isn't the only word you'd use to describe it. With each bone Midoriya breaks, your horror grows. It only gets worse when the boy keeps attacking with his already broken limbs. Has he lost his mind? Of course, you already know the answer to that. Midoriya is a smart kid. He wouldn't go through all this pain without a good reason. It's obvious to you that he's doing it for Todoroki's sake, but since you can't hear what they're shouting, you have no idea what this is all about. It's when Todoroki willingly activates his left side that you realize what his opponent was trying to do. Midoriya didn't approve of Todoroki thinking he should only use his right side. The green-haired student wanted his classmate to fight at full power. He wanted Todoroki to realize that it's his power. Just because he got the quirk from his father doesn't mean it's his. That quirk belongs to Todoroki, and he has the right to choose what he does with it. He shouldn't have to listen to anyone else. All you can do is watch nervously as your students move to make the final blow. Even though Midnight and Cementos try to intervene, the sheer power of the attacks still causes a huge explosion that shakes the arena, filling it with a thick cloud of smoke. Everyone waits with bated breath to see who will be declared the winner. When the smoke finally clears, Todoroki is announced the victor since Midoriya is now out of bounds. As you watch the green-haired boy get carried off to Recovery Girl, you find yourself smiling with pride. While you can't say you approve of his methods, you are proud of what Midoriya did in this match. Rather than worry about beating his opponent and moving forward, he cared more about helping out his classmate who he knew was hurting. He really has the makings of a hero. You can't find kindness like that just anywhere. Midoriya really is amazing. You happily think to yourself. While a part of you wants to go check on him, you refrain since it's likely Recovery Girl is busy healing him. Hopefully, none of the damage done to him is too serious that it can't be treated. Compared to that match, the next 3 matches go by pretty fast. Ida pushes Shiozaki out of the ring using his incredible speed, while Bakugo overwhelms Kirishima with continuous explosions. Despite her best efforts, Ashido isn't able to do any damage to Dark Shadow, resulting in her loss. Just as the match between Todoroki and Ida is about to begin, it happens. 1 minute, you're feeling fine, and the next, your body is overwhelmed by pain. Strangely enough, the pain actually isn't as bad as you were expecting it to be. Of course, it's still awful enough that you have to bite your lip to keep from crying out. While the majority of the pain is around your saint and ribs, it's your back that's killing you the most. Sitting in this strong chair is not doing you any favors. However, what worries you the most is the sudden numbness of your legs. Anxious, you slowly try to move one, and are extremely relieved when you can. Unfortunately, just that little bit of movement causes your leg to flare with pain, making you wince. So, even though the paralysis wasn't passed over, that doesn't mean your legs won't be doing any suffering. A gentle hand on your shoulder draws you away from your pain-riddled thoughts. Blinking back tears, you turn to see Aizawa watching you with a frown. Looks like he noticed your predicament pretty quickly. You give him a shaky smile as you whisper, "I'm okay. I can feel my legs. I'm in pain, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be." His eyebrows furrows at your words, but rather than immediately respond, the older man releases your shoulder before turning to whisper something in Present Mike's ear. While the blonde turns to give you a worried look, Aizawa moves to stand. In a blink, you find yourself in his arms, causing your face to heat up with embarrassment. It's only because of the nearby microphone that you manage to keep yourself from crying out in surprise. However, that doesn't mean you won't say anything. As soon as the door to the press box closes behind the two of you, you remark, "Aizawa-san, you really don't have to do this. I could have stayed in the press box until the festival finished." He rolls his eyes. "It's not like you would have been able to enjoy the matches, considering the pain you're now in. Besides, you should have Recovery Girl take a look at you. Even if she can't heal it, you know she'll be mad if you don't go see her." Oh man, you're not looking forward to that explanation. While last time was an accident, you knew what you were getting into this time around. Hopefully, she'll understand, considering how dire the situation was. As the underground hero heads down the hallway, you find yourself pondering about what happened to Ingenium. For some reason, you can't help but feel uneasy, as if something has gone wrong. It's not until a few minutes pass that you realize what's bothering you. Aizawa-san, the level of pain I'm feeling isn't as bad as I was expecting. I think it's actually less than what I received from the Yust attack. Aizawa raises an eyebrow. Don't tell me you're actually complaining. Shouldn't you be happy it's not that bad? You shake your head. It's not that. If we're understanding my quirk correctly, then I'm supposed to receive all the pain that a person would have felt if I hadn't interfered with their future. Obviously, I'm feeling some pain, but it's like I'm not feeling all of it. At your words, he comes to an abrupt halt. You're saying Ingenium received some of it, meaning he still ended up fighting Stain. He just didn't get as injured as he would have if you hadn't told him about your vision. Even though you had been hinting at it, it's not until he says it out loud that you realize the significance of your own words. Your eyes grow large. Wait. I thought the plan was he would avoid fighting Stain. Did he somehow get cornered anyway? Was this actually something I couldn't prevent after all? As he resumes walking, Aizawa frowns. It's strong to say. We won't find out until we ask the man himself. But considering his situation, it's likely he's in the hospital now or on the way there. I'll have to let the principal know about this. One of your hands moves to clutch the front of his shirt. Do you think his legs are still okay? While I can move mine, they are kinda numb, and it hurts to move them. Does that mean we succeeded in preventing his paralysis? He sighs wearily. I don't know. It's likely that's the case, considering your condition, but we won't know for sure until we talk to Ingenium or get in contact with the hospital where he'll be staying. Your grip on him tightens. I really hope he'll be okay. I don't want Ida to lose his hero. I don't want him to lose himself for the sake of revenge. He won't. Aizawa resolutely replies, we won't let him. You find yourself relaxing at his words. That's right. No matter what happens, Aizawa won't let Ada continue down that path. And there's also Ingenium who will do whatever he can to stop his brother. As long as you all keep an eye on Ada, everything will be fine. You'll make sure that fight against Stain doesn't happen. If only it were that simple. Unbeknownst to you, there are other forces at work. Ingenium's confrontation with the hero killer did indeed end up a great deal different from your vision, and both parties were affected as a result. Yes, there's definitely a change in the wind. One that you unfortunately won't notice until it's too late. As expected, Recovery Girl was not happy to hear about the situation with Ingenium. While she understands why you did it, the heroine still scolds you for your recklessness while she examines you. After her examination concludes, you end up spending the rest of the festival sleeping in the infirmary after getting some strong painkillers from the heroine. Unfortunately, that means you don't get to see how the rest of the matches turn out. The next time you wake, you find yourself looking up at a familiar ceiling that you haven't seen in the last several days. Apparently, Aizawa decided to bring you back to his apartment to recover. It makes sense since you're the only one currently staying at Heights Alliance, so there's no one there to keep an eye on you. When you pull your gaze away from the ceiling, you see Shiro and Kiro curled up beside you on the bed, fast asleep. Naturally, you are very happy to see the cats again, even though it's been less than a week since you were last here. Upon noticing your cell phone on the nearby nightstand, you slowly reach for it, ignoring the pain the movement causes. Honestly, it really isn't as bad as what happened with the Yust attack, so while you're not sure what kind of damage Ingenium was supposed to receive, it's obvious that broken arms weren't on the list. When you check the time on your phone, you see it's around 7 in the evening, meaning you've been asleep for several hours. Somehow, during that time, you were brought here, probably by car since you can't imagine Aizawa taking the train while carrying your unconscious body. That's when you notice you have a message from Shinsu. He sent it about an hour ago, asking if you were alright. Remembering your promise to contact him, you immediately send a reply, apologizing for the late response. You also tell him that you are dealing with your drawback again, but it's not as bad as you thought it'd be. His response is immediate. How bad is not as bad as I thought? You huff in amusement before explaining that you're not in as much pain as you had been last time. So, after the 2-day break, you shouldn't have any problems returning to school. Thankfully, that seems to appease him, but you have no doubt that he'll be paying you a visit when school resumes on Tuesday. Maybe you should go ahead and prepare a bento for him just in case. It'll be a good way to apologize for worrying him. So, you're finally awake. Jerking in surprise, you wince at the pain the sudden movement causes before moving your gaze to the doorway where Aizawa stands with his arms crossed. You grin sheepishly. Good evening, Aizawa-san. Sorry for the trouble. Again. He rolls his eyes as he leans against the doorframe. How are you feeling? Pain still the same? You nod. It hasn't gotten any worse, but it's not any better either. Pretty sure the painkillers have worn off, but overall, I'm okay. It really isn't as bad as last time. His eyes carefully scrutinize you, checking to see if your words are true. After a few seconds, he appears satisfied with what he finds. All right, I'll get you something to eat and some more painkillers. Later on, after you finish your meal and take the medicine, you decide to ask Aizawa about Ingenium. Any news about Ingenium? Did you find out if he did encounter Stain? The older man scratches his chin. Haven't found out all the details, but he did get attacked. Ida actually left the festival early because he got a call about what happened. That's why he wasn't at the awards ceremony. A worried frown forms on your lips. For Ida to be called during the festival, that means the damage was pretty bad, right? Aizawa shrugs his shoulders. Considering your current state, it's probably not as bad as what you saw in the vision. Still, I'm sure he didn't come out unscathed since it is the hero killer we're talking about. It's possible you just took all the damage related to his permanent injuries. You clutch the comforter tightly with your clenched fists. I really hope that's the case. Sunday passes pretty uneventfully, with the only thing interesting being when Aizawa finds out more about what happened to Ingenium. According to Nedzu, the turbo hero definitely did encounter and get attacked by Stain. However, none of his injuries were serious enough that they couldn't be healed by the hospital staff. Most importantly, there was no spinal damage, so his legs are fine. While he'll be taking some time off to recuperate from the attack, Ingenium can still continue his hero career. The relief is staggering. While the plan didn't go exactly as you had expected, in the end, it was successful. Ingenium isn't paralyzed. He can still do hero work. Hopefully, this means Ida won't go down that dark path you've been doing your best to steer him away from. While the boy will obviously still hate Stain for his actions, it's unlikely he'll be driven by revenge since this kind of thing happens all the time to heroes. Ida is rational enough to realize his brother can't come out of every fight unscathed. Of course, you have no doubt that his brother will still give him a long talk. Just in case, without mentioning your vision, of course. During last week's meeting with Ingenium, you asked him not to tell his brother about your vision, partly because you didn't want him to find out what could have happened to his older brother, with the other reason being you didn't want Ida to find out about how he would have reacted. No doubt the boy would have felt guilty, even though the events of your vision haven't actually happened. Thankfully, Ingenium was in full agreement with you on this matter. Obviously, he had the same worries as you. That's why you both will do your best to prevent Ida from ever finding out about the future your visions foretold, because some secrets are better off untold. While nothing else really happens on Sunday, Monday is another matter entirely. Early that morning, Nedzu messages you and Aizawa to let you know that Todoroki will be moving into the dorm in a few hours, while Yuraraka will be coming later that afternoon. Apparently, her parents dropped by to visit, so she's spending the break with them before moving in. Unfortunately, there's a problem with this situation. Nedzu wants Aizawa to go welcome Todoroki and show him around the dorms. Aizawa can't, however, because he was called in for his other job. Apparently, the underground hero Eraserhead is desperately needed somewhere across town far away from Yua. You'd, of course, offer to go in his place, but he's quick to dismiss you since you're injured. However, when you bring this up with Nedzu, the principal thinks that as long as you stay in a wheelchair it should be fine. Since someone needs to be there when Todoroki arrives, Aizawa reluctantly agrees to go along with your idea after the hybrid gives his support. So, after Nedzu sends a car to pick the two of you up, you and Aizawa head for UA, and after he helps you get into the dorm, the underground hero leaves for work. Rather than bother going to your room, you decide to roll into the living room and watch some TV until your student arrives. According to Nedzu, his things are already here, so you won't have to help him carry his stuff in. You just need to show him where everything is. You can't help but feel a little nervous about the situation. You haven't really spoken with Todoroki much since you started interacting with his class. He has always come across as cold and aloof, making him strong to approach. Of course, you now know he's mainly like that because of his horrible upbringing. Hopefully, this change in scenery will do him some good. One of your biggest worries is explaining to him why you're in a wheelchair. When you tried to convince Aizawa to let you walk around, the underground hero wouldn't budge, stating you could only come as long as you stayed in the chair. To be honest, you probably couldn't do much walking even if you wanted to. Your back is still killing you, and your legs aren't doing much better. If you tried to stand, they'd probably fold within seconds. It's at that moment you hear a knock on the door. When you say, "Come in," Todoroki opens the door and walks inside. When you roll your way over to him, his eyes immediately focus on your wheelchair, and the corners of his lips tug downwards. You're surprised by the faint worry in his gaze. "Sensei, what happened?" Touched by his concern, you give him a smile. "I'm all right, Todoroki. This is just the drawback of my quirk acting up again. You remember how I was after the Yusj attack? It's like that. My legs and back should be fine by the end of the day since the effects of this drawback only last for 2 days. The tension in his frame eases at your words. Soon after, Todoroki tilts his head. Did you have another vision about a villain attack? You shrug. Basically, it's a little different from Yusj attack, but my goal was pretty much the same. I wanted to prevent the injuries that occurred in my vision from happening. Rather than give him an opportunity to question you more, you wave a hand toward the large area behind you. I'm in charge of giving you the tour since Aizawa-san is busy at the moment. He'll probably drop by later after work if he finishes up in time. Just as you're about to move your chair to begin the tour, your student's voice makes you pause. Sensei? When you turn your head to look at him curiously, you see Todoroki hesitate for a few seconds before quietly asking, "Would you like for me to push your wheelchair? It'll be easier for you that way, won't it?" The corners of your lips curve upwards as a warm feeling takes root in your Saint. That would be great. Thank you, Todoroki. With that, the boy grabs onto the wheelchair's handles and starts pushing you forward. As you lean back into the seat, you point at all the different areas, explaining where everything is. After you show him everything on the first floor, you point out the elevator and tell him what floor he'll be on. Apparently, Nedzu has already made room assignments for the whole class, even though only 2 kids will be living here for the time being. Not long after that, the tour concludes, and Todoroki begins heading for the elevator so he can start arranging his room. Before he can get far, you get an idea, prompting you to quickly call out to him. "Hey, Todoroki? What's your favorite food?" Todoroki pauses before turning to give you a confused look. "Zaru soba." "Why?" When you mentally go over what you've bought for the kitchen, you're relieved to note you have all the ingredients you need. You grin, cause that's what we'll be having for lunch. It should be ready around 12, so come down around then, okay? His eyes widen a fraction before his eyebrows furrow. "Are you sure? You don't have to make it just because I like it." You wave a dismissive hand in his direction. "Nonsense, this is your welcoming meal. Of course, it's gotta be something you like. If she's here by dinner, I'll make something Uraraka likes too." It's at that moment you see the corners of his lips tug upwards for the first time. While it's strongly noticeable, you can definitely tell that your student is smiling at you. "Thank you, sensei." While he heads to his room, you have to take a few minutes to recover from one of the cutest things you've ever seen. DMN, you had no idea that a smile from someone so stoic would be so adorable. That smile is definitely going on your must protect at all costs list. If you ever get the chance to meet Endeavor in person, you might just have to fight the man. Number 2 hero title be damned. Since you're not used to cooking while sitting, it takes you a while to get everything situated. A few times, you do have to stand in order to get ingredients that you can't reach when sitting. But thankfully, as long as you brace yourself on the counter, you can remain on your feet for a few minutes at a time without falling. It hurts, of course, but it's bearable. Thankfully, you are, in fact, able to finish everything by noon, so when Todoroki comes walking into the kitchen at that time, the soba is ready to eat. The boy kindly volunteers to carry everything to the dining area while you roll behind him. You watch very closely as Todoroki takes his first bite of the soba, trying to see from his expression if he likes it. While he definitely isn't the easiest person to read, you do notice the way his eyes light up as he eats, and you find yourself relaxing with relief. For a while, the two of you eat in silence. Todoroki appears used to this, and you are as well since that's pretty normal when you have meals with Aizawa. Still, you like to take advantage of this opportunity to talk to your student and get to know him better. "So, what do you think of the dorm? Do you think you'll like it here?" He nods as he quietly slurps his noodles. After he swallows, Todoroki adds, "It's nice. I was surprised when I was told I could live here, but I think it's a nice change of pace." Your shoulders slump with relief. You're happy to hear he likes his new living arrangements. "I'm glad. If there's ever anything you need or if you have any problems, just let me know, okay?" The stoic boy gives you another nod before returning to his meal. It's as you follow his example and resume eating that you think back to that vision you had about Todoroki and Midoriya. Should you tell Todoroki that you know about his situation? And that you told the principal and Aizawa about it? Even though you've always sworn to never tell the secrets revealed in your visions, you did this time, and you can't help but feel guilty. While you don't regret telling the pro heroes, you do feel bad about not letting your student know beforehand. "Sensei," at the sound of Todoroki's voice, you jerk in surprise before looking up to see him frowning. What kind of face were you making to get him to look at you like that? Even though it looks like he wants to ask you what's wrong, Todoroki hesitates, probably thinking it's something he shouldn't meddle with. Or maybe he's unsure of what to say in this type of situation. Considering his lack of social skills, that would make sense. Deciding you really don't want to hide what you know, you set down your chopsticks with a sigh. I have a confession to make, Todoroki. It's about a vision I had last week. He tilts his head. If you're telling me about it, that means I was somehow involved, right? You nod? Yeah, I got a vision regarding the conversation you had with Midoriya after the cavalry battle. Noticing the way the boy stiffens, you add, I have no idea why I got a vision like that, but because of it, I know about your background now. Before he can respond, you bow your head. I want to apologize for not only listening in on your private conversation, but also for letting Aizawa-san and the principal know about it. I was with them when I had the vision, and even though it wasn't my secret to tell, I couldn't keep quiet about it. When you raise your head, you take in his calculative expression. That's why I'm really here, isn't it? You were trying to get me away from my old man. Nodding, you slump back into your seat. I know because of your father's position that it will be strong to prove everything he did. The principal said he'll do whatever he can to investigate, but it will take time. You clench your hands into fists. I knew there wasn't anything I could really do to fix the situation, but I wanted to do something. I figured, even if we can't do anything to stop him, we could, at least, get you out of that house. It's not much, but I hoped it would help. I really hope my meddling didn't make things worse for you. It didn't. Surprised, you look up from your lap to see Todoroki studying you. After a brief pause, he continues, While I had no intention of letting anyone other than Midoriya find out about my situation, I'm not mad that they know. I honestly just didn't see the point in trying to tell anyone else because it seemed unlikely that they'd believe me. His expression marginally softens. But you did. You didn't even consider the idea that I was lying. Even though my old man is the number 2 hero, you still believed what I said and went out of your way to try to help me. Thank you, Sensei. You abruptly pull away from the table, catching the boy by surprise. Once you've wheeled yourself over to his side, you quickly rise to your feet, ignoring the pain caused by your sudden movement. Sensei, what? His words cut off when you wrap your arms around him in a hug. Todoroki, I will always believe you. I know you're a good kid. You wouldn't lie about something like that. I don't care who your father is. You're the only Todoroki I care about. Gradually, his stiff posture relaxes in your hold, while his arms remain at his sides. After a few seconds, you give him a gentle squeeze before pulling away. Noticing how wobbly your legs are now, you immediately drop back down into the wheelchair, doing your best to keep from visibly wincing. Upon noticing his gaze on you, you smile sheepishly. Sorry for hugging you so suddenly. If that kind of thing makes you uncomfortable, I won't do it again. He blinks before turning back to his food. It's fine. I wasn't really uncomfortable, just surprised. You move back to your place at the table. Just let me know if I ever do anything that makes you uncomfortable, alright? I want you to be comfortable here, so I want to avoid doing anything you may dislike. I don't want you to feel like you can't complain just because I'm your teacher. Todoroki nods. Alright, I will, thanks. As he resumes eating, you take a moment to study the boy before you and find yourself thinking about your earlier concerns. Soon after, a smile rises to your lips. I was nervous at first since I strongly interacted with him before today, but now that I've gotten the chance to properly talk to him, I think things will go well for us at Heights Alliance. Your smile grows. We'll be just fine, I'm sure of it. Not long after that, you both finish lunch. Just as you're about to start collecting the dirty dishes, Todoroki surprises you when he does so in your stead, and then offers to help wash the dishes. Grateful for the assistance, you leave him in charge of washing while you dry everything. With the two of you working together, it doesn't take long to get everything clean. Once everything is back where it should be, Todoroki returns to his room, making you wonder if he's still unpacking, or if he just wants some time to himself. You decide to preoccupy yourself by playing video games in the living room since you don't know what time your Uraka will arrive. Even though Yamada claimed the game console he bought was for Aizawa's apartment, it somehow ended up coming along with you to the dorm, much to your delight. After a few seconds of mental debate, you decide to play Mario Kart for a while. A part of you wonders if you should invite Todoroki to play, but you figure you shouldn't bother the boy since he obviously had a reason for going back to his room. Plus, it's likely he wouldn't be interested. The next 2 hours pass in silence save for the sounds coming from the television. Just when you begin to wonder if you should swap games, you hear a voice from behind you ask, "What are you doing?" Startled, a loud shriek escapes you as you jump in your seat. You WHP your head around to look behind you and see Todoroki calmly watching you. Realizing he's waiting for an answer, you take a deep breath to try to calm your now racing heartbeat. I'm playing a racing game. Since I don't know when your Uraka will arrive, I figured I should just hang out here in the living room so I'll be able to hear when she arrives. Noticing the way he's curiously observing the screen, you decide you might as well ask him if he wants to join since he's here. Would you like to play with me, Todoroki? He blinks, clearly surprised by your offer. I've never played anything like this before. A smile forms on your lips. Neither had I until Present Mike showed me how a few weeks ago. You want me to teach you? It's fun, I promise. At first, Todoroki hesitates, but after a few seconds, he nods before taking a seat on the couch. You hand him the second controller and select the two-player racing option. Like Yamada did with you, you go over all the rules and show him what each button does. Once he feels comfortable enough with everything, you move on to the character selection screen. While you immediately choose the princesses since you've become attached to them, Todoroki takes his time before finally selecting Toad and Toadette, which you find really adorable. It takes him a few races, but the stoic boy does eventually get the hang of it. A part of you expects him to grow bored with it since he doesn't seem like the type of person who likes games, but you are pleasantly surprised to see him becoming more invested with each race. Maybe it's stirring up his competitive spirit. Either way, you end up having a lot of fun playing with Todoroki. You even show him the Smash Brothers game which he takes an interest in. Most likely, he thinks he'll do better at a fighting game than a racing one. Just as the match is about to start, you hear a knock on the door, causing you to pause the game. That must be Uraraka. Before you can move toward the door, Todoroki rises to his feet and walks over to the door to let his classmate in. You can hear the girl cheerfully greet him, to which he nods in response. Shortly after she comes inside, her gaze falls on you, and her eyes widen in shock. Uraraka immediately runs over to you, wearing a worried frown. "Unsensei, are you all right? What happened?" You smile reassuringly before giving her the same explanation you did for Todoroki. "I'm actually doing a lot better as compared to Saturday. I was still in pain this morning, but a little while ago, the pain finally began to fade. So, I think my 48-hour time limit has ended." Your smile turns sheepish. "I just got so caught up with playing video games with Todoroki that I didn't think to try to get out of my wheelchair." Wanting your students to see that you really are all right, you proceed to pull yourself out of the wheelchair, while your students nervously hover around you just in case. When you rise to your feet without any difficulty and prove that you truly are no longer dealing with any serious pain, Uraraka sighs in relief. "I'm so glad. Seeing you in a wheelchair had me really worried." While nodding along with her words, Todoroki asks, "Since you're feeling better, that means you will be at school tomorrow, right, sensei?" "That's the plan." You answer, "If I'm not in class, it's probably because I'll be stuck in the teacher's lounge handling all the paperwork Aizawa-san can find for me." Scratching your cheek, you add, "I'd appreciate it if you kept this a secret from your classmates." "I'd hate for them to worry, especially since the Usj attack wasn't that long ago. I don't mind if they find out I had to deal with my drawback again. I just don't want them to know how bad it was." Uraraka quickly nods while Todoroki does the same at a calmer pace. "Of course. We understand, sensei. We won't tell anyone, right, Todoroki-kun?" "Right." Once that's settled, you give Uraraka the tour, watching with amusement as she reacts enthusiastically to the sheer size of the place. When she calls it a mansion, you can help but silently agree. Surprisingly, Todoroki joins the tour rather than take this chance to leave and do his own thing. When you finish showing the excited girl the first floor, the three of you return to the living room where Uraraka sees the paused game screen on the TV. "Oh yeah, you did mention that you were playing video games earlier." Uraraka remarks, "Are these your games, sensei?" You grin when you notice her interested look. "I guess you could say that since Present Mike bought them for my sake. I only have Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, so that's what we've been playing. Todoroki had never played before, so I taught him how." An excited smile forms on her face. "Ooh, that sounds like fun. I'd like to give it a try too. Don't you need to unpack?" At her classmate's question, the bubbly student droops and hangs her head. "Ah, I forgot." Her response makes you laugh. "Well, if you want, we can play a little now, and you can work on unpacking after dinner. It's not like you have to get everything set up the first day you move in." Uraraka pumps her fist into the air with a cheer. "Yeah, I'll just play for a little while, and then I'll go work on my room." Todoroki shrugs his shoulders before moving to sit on the couch. "Do we have another controller?" Surprisingly enough, you do. Originally, the gaming system only had 2, but for some reason, when you found the gaming system here the other day, you discovered 4 controllers. The only explanation you can think of is that Present Mike bought more so you can play with multiple people. You'll have to thank him for that the next time you see him. When you point out where the third one is, Uraraka immediately goes to plug it in before taking the spot on the couch that's to your right since Todoroki took the seat to your left. Quickly, you go over all the rules and the button commands before going to the character selection screen. Much to your amusement, Uraraka picks Kirby while Todoroki chooses the Ice Climbers. You pick Samus before choosing to start the match. It's overall a very entertaining match. Uraraka keeps making excited sounds every time she discovers something new that Kirby can do. Todoroki's expression doesn't change much, but he does appear pleased when he figures out how to do the ice attacks. Despite their inexperience, the two students put up a good fight. In the end, however, you do defeat them, much to their frustration. Uraraka is quick to demand a rematch with her classmates silently nodding along, so you move to pick a new fighting arena. It doesn't take long for the two to get used to the game, and they're soon giving you a run for your money. And that's how you spend the rest of your afternoon. After a few hours pass, you hear Uraraka's stomach growl, and you turn in time to see her rosy cheeks turn an even brighter red. An amused smile forms on your lips. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. What's your favorite food, Uraraka? I made Todoroki soba for lunch, so I thought we could do something you like for dinner. Her eyes widen in surprise. Really? Are you sure? You don't have to if there's something else you'd rather make. Todoroki sets his controller down on the coffee table. She said it's a welcoming gift. She wouldn't offer if she wasn't sure. When she sees you nod in agreement, Uraraka beams. I love Japanese food, but matcha is probably my favorite thing to eat. You tap your chin thoughtfully. I don't think I have the right ingredients for matcha right now, but I'll definitely remember that the next time I go grocery shopping. However, I can make some miso soup and rice. I'll check to see what other dishes I can make along with it. She jumps to her feet and bounces in place. I'll help. Just tell me what you need me to do, you grin. Thank you, Uraraka. I appreciate it. When you both turn to look at Todoroki, he just blinks. I don't have any cooking experience. I don't know if I'd be much help. Uraraka holds her clenched fists up to her chin as she gives him a determined look. You don't know if you don't try. Come on, Todoroki-kun. If we all work together, it'll be even more delicious, right, sensei? Your grin grows when she directs her gaze toward you. That's true. I think it would be a lot of fun if you joined us, Todoroki. For several seconds, he just stares before slowly moving to stand. All right. I'll do my best. His classmate cheers excitedly as you, and she begin moving toward the kitchen while the stoic boy follows close behind. Just as you said, the group cooking effort ends up being a lot of fun. You really love the contrast between the students' personalities, with Uraraka working enthusiastically while Todoroki handles everything at a much calmer pace. This is probably the most fun you've ever had cooking. Most likely, it's because this is your first time cooking with someone else. You're so used to cooking by yourself that sharing the kitchen with other cooks is actually pretty exhilarating. When all is said and done and the three of you are enjoying the fruits of your LBR, a feeling of contentment washes over you. Even though life hasn't exactly been easy since you arrived, you don't regret for a second coming to this school. You are so glad that you're here. There's no other place you'd rather be. On second thought, rather than go to class with Aizawa the next day, you are instructed to go to the principal's office where you discover the hybrid plans on giving you more tests, much like the one he made for you the day you arrived at UA. Nedzu smiles as you gaze wide-eyed at the multiple pages that make up his first test. Since we wanted you to take it easy today, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to do more research about your education. Aside from lunch, you'll be spending the whole day with me, working through problems. I look forward to seeing your results. Your shoulders slump as you release a heavy sigh. What I do for these kids. When the lunch bell rings, you are beyond relieved. Spending hours taking different standardized tests is not your idea of a fun morning, even though you did get to enjoy some nice tea and tasty snacks prepared by Nedzu during the breaks in between tests. That's why you're now heading to the teacher's lounge. First and foremost, you want to make sure Aizawa isn't trying to sleep through lunch. Once he's taken care of, you can spend the rest of the PRD relaxing as you eat. Surprisingly enough, when you arrive, you find that there are two students sitting inside waiting for you. Shinsu isn't too much of a surprise since you knew he'd come see you sometime today. However, you definitely weren't expecting to see Midoriya. The general department student has his eyes closed as he rests his head in his arms, while the green-haired boy is nervously fidgeting in his seat. When he catches sight of you, Midoriya's face brightens as he smiles in relief. Unsensei. Hearing the other boy call your name draws Shinsu out of his light dozing. With a yawn, he straightens in his seat, giving you an onsova, probably to check for injuries. Sensei. You grin at the two. Hey, guys. Were you waiting on me? Sorry if I made you wait a while. I was with the principal. Midoriya immediately shakes his head. We just got here. After the lunch bell rang, I decided to drop by since I didn't see you this morning. I saw you in the infirmary during the sports festival, so I was worried. The other student cracks his neck. While you said the damage wasn't that bad, I figured I'd come see for myself. Your expression softens. I'm sorry for worrying you both. I appreciate you guys coming to check on me. With a cheerful smile, you pull out the extra bento you made for Shinso and hand it to him. After he accepts it, you pull out yours and give Midoriya a considering look. Would you like to eat with us, Midoriya? Sometimes Shinsu comes by, so I made a bento for him today, figuring he'd show up. I don't mind sharing mine with you if you want some. The green-haired student starts waving his hands frantically. You don't have to do that, sensei. I can just go to the cafeteria and eat something there. You tilt your head. You sure? I don't mind sharing, but if you'd rather go eat with your friends, I understand. You should hurry, though, so that you'll have enough time to eat. Shinsu raises an eyebrow at the other boy as he munches on his food. Did you really come here just to see her for a few minutes? Why not just wait till after school then? Midoriya starts nervously wringing his hands. I know I should have done that, but before I knew it, I found myself at the teacher's lounge after the lunch bell rang. My feet moved on their own. He bites his lip. I was worried since Sensei looked a lot like how she did after the Usj attack. I don't know what happened, but whatever event she tried to prevent had to have been bad. I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I wanted to see her as soon as I could. The GD student's expression marginally softens in response to the other boy's words, while a gentle smile forms on your lips. You take a seat beside your student and ruffle his hair, making the OFA user jump in surprise. Thank you, Midoriya. I really am sorry for worrying you. I promise I'm all right now. I've completely recovered. Before he can respond, you hand him an onigiri, grateful that you decided to go the simple route for lunch today, since that means you can easily share it. I know you said you'd go to the cafeteria, but I really don't mind sharing. It'll be fun having you. The more, the merrier after all. Plus, I'm hoping to improve Shinsu's social skills. Now that you two know each other thanks to the sports festival, I hope you can both become good friends. While Shinsu rolls his eyes at your remark, Midoriya shyly accepts the food before donning a curious expression. Considering you told me on the day of the sports festival that I would be able to make a new friend during the festival, that means you knew that Shinso-kun and I were going to end up fighting each other in the sports festival. Right, sensei. After taking a bite of your food, you nod your head. Yup. I had a vision about it the first time I came across Shinsu. I didn't tell him he'd be fighting you, though, since I thought it'd be unfair for you. I wanted you both to be surprised. The purple-haired boy huffs. Yet you had no problem bragging about Midoriya, telling me what a great friend he'd be. You made him sound like Mr. Sunshine when he's built like a boxer with punches to match. I feel like I was tricked somehow. His words make you snort loudly while Midoriya turns a bright red and starts stammering incoherently due to his embarrassment. It only gets worse when you sling an arm across his shoulders as you grin at the GD student. Like you wouldn't have been fooled without me interfering. Just look at his face. He's as cute as a puppy. Even though he can easily kick anyone's butt, his face naturally looks like this. It's almost like he does it on purpose to make everyone let their guards down. Shinsu tilts his head as he grins. Maybe you're onto something. He doesn't seem like the devious type, but that could just mean he's even better at it than we originally thought. Maybe he's playing us all. Midoriya shakes his head as he waves his hands frantically. I am not, I promise. I am not acting. This leads to you and Shinsu laughing at the other boy's flustered reaction. Midoriya is seriously too cute. You remove your arm from his shoulders and move to wipe away the tears of mirth from your eyes. We're just teasing you, Midoriya. I know you being a cinnamon roll is not an act. I don't think anyone has acting skills that good. The green-haired student's blush darkens as he hangs his head, choosing to nibble on his food rather than respond. That's when you hear a familiar voice that reminds you of something you forgot. You brats are all so damn noisy. Why can't you just eat in the cafeteria so I can sleep in peace? Aizawa's words make Midoriya jerk in surprise while Shinsu just snorts. You grin at the man lying on the couch. I'm glad you said something, Aizawa-san. I almost forgot about your lunch. Since you're awake now, you can eat the bento I kindly made you. He rolls his eyes but doesn't bother trying to argue, knowing it's pointless. With a yawn, Aizawa emerges from his yellow cocoon before heading for his desk to eat his lunch. Satisfied, you return your attention to the students and witness Shinsu offering some of his food to Midoriya, who accepts it, wearing a shy smile. The GD student just looks away as he continues to eat, much to your amusement. The rest of the lunch PRD passes peacefully with the three of you chatting and enjoying each other's company. Thankfully, by the time the bell rings, Shinsu appears to be more comfortable around Midoriya. Hopefully, this means there's a chance for them to become friends after all. Your sync grows warm at the thought. Here's to hoping for the best. After lunch, the rest of Tuesday is spent with you taking more tests, so unfortunately, nothing really interesting happens for the rest of the day. However, you are delighted to find Uraraka and Todoroki waiting for you when you finally exit the metaphorical lion's den. Now that the three of you are living together, the brunette thought it would be a great idea for the three of you to walk back to Heights Alliance together after school despite it not being that far away from the main building. Todoroki surprisingly agreed rather quickly, seemingly unbothered by the prospect of having to wait for you. Shortly after you all arrive at the dorm, Uraraka presses her hands together, carefully avoiding using all her fingers, and gives you a pleading look. "Sensei, would you help me with some English homework please? You explain it so well and make it so easy to understand." Todoroki simply tilts his head. "I always thought Present Mix-sensei did a good job at explaining things. The homework seems pretty simple." At his words, the other student hangs her head glumly. Before she can attempt to explain herself to her puzzled classmate, you intervene by placing a hand on her shoulder. "I'll be happy to help. Uraraka, if you want, we can use one of the dining tables and work there." She beams happily. "Thank you, sensei." With a speed that would impress Ida, Uraraka runs toward the elevator to get changed out of her uniform. Meanwhile, Todoroki follows at a much slower pace. "Todoroki, if you'd like to join us, you can. I know you don't really need any help, but if you'd like some company while you do your homework, you're always welcome." He pauses to consider your words before eventually nodding. "All right, I'll think about it." Surprisingly enough, Todoroki does take you up on your offer, showing up about 15 minutes after you start working with Uraraka. He doesn't say anything, just takes a seat before starting on his own work. Even so, you can't help but feel happy about this development. Hopefully, this is the first of many more interactions to come with the boy. After the homework is complete, your students catch you by surprise when they offer to cook dinner with you like they did last night. Whether it's because they knew you had a long weary day thanks to Nedzu's tests, and they want to ease your workload tonight, or if it's because they enjoy cooking with you, you're not sure, but you won't complain. It's just as much fun the second time as it is the first. Much to your amusement, Todoroki brings up eating soba again, even though you prepared a bento for his lunch today with the leftover soba from yesterday. Just how much does he love that dish? In the end, you and Uraraka manage to convince him that he shouldn't eat soba for 2 meals in one day, but you do promise to make it for him again later on in the week. You get the feeling you'll be making it weekly from now on. Not that you really mind, of course. Thankfully, since you completed all of Nedzu's tests yesterday, you are able to go to homeroom on Wednesday, so you're there to greet the students when they arrive, with the exception of Ida, who is already seated at his desk when you walk into the Wana classroom. Upon your arrival, he immediately rises from his seat and bows. "Good morning, Unsensei. We heard from Aizawa-sensei about your tests with the principal. I hope they went well." Just the mention of those tests makes you twitch. You immediately slap on a grin, hoping he didn't notice your initial reaction. "Good morning, Ida. Thank you. The principal seemed pleased with the results of the tests I saw him grade, so hopefully, I did all right." Judging by the slight manic grin on the hybrid's face, you worry that Nedzu enjoyed the results a little too much. You hope that doesn't mean there will be more where that came from. Rather than dwell on those scary thoughts, you decide to focus on your student. "Congratulations on getting 4th at the sports festival. That's really impressive." Ida bows his head again before returning to his seat. "Thank you. Unfortunately, due to family matters, I had to leave early so I was unable to take part in the awards ceremony." Taking your time to examine the boy, you try to see if there are any noticeable differences from how he was before the festival compared to now. You don't notice any of the anger or grief that was visibly apparent in your vision. Maybe he is taking the attack better this time around like you had hoped. Deciding to test the waters, you ask him about the attack. "I'm sorry to hear about your brother. Is he doing all right?" A small smile appears on his face. Thankfully, it doesn't appear forced. It seems like the kind of expression any person would make when asked about an injured family member, leaving you feeling relieved. He is. Thankfully, despite the hero killer's reputation, there was no permanent damage, and none of the injuries were serious enough that a healing quirk couldn't fix. After a few days' rest, he'll be fully recovered. Your shoulders slump with relief. Thank goodness. Even though you already knew this thanks to Aizawa and Nedzu, hearing it come from Ida is so much more relieving. You feel something in your CH-sin unclench at the sight of the optimistic hope in the boy's eyes. Not long after that, the other students come walking inside with the majority of them greeting you cheerfully. When Takoyami passes by, Dark Shadow pops out and immediately wraps around your shoulders. "We placed 3rd, in. Where's that candy you promised?" The avian-featured student glares at his quirk. "Dark Shadow, release her. You can't go around making demands like that, especially not so rudely." Apologize. Surprisingly, the shadow creature actually obeys his vessel this time. Well, at least, he listens to the second command since he makes no move to release you. Dark Shadow hangs his head. Sorry, and I didn't mean to be rude. Shaking your head, you reach up to pet the Quirk. It's fine. Just remember your manners next time. When he agrees, you pull out some Twizzlers for the shadow creature, who immediately starts enjoying his prize. You also hand some to Takoyami along with a cool sword sticker. Congratulations on winning third, Takoyami. You were really cool. It was fun watching you in action. His feathers ruffle upwards as he bows his head. Thank you, sensei. After Takoyami moves to sit down, Aoyama approaches your desk. This earns him your and several others' attention since he doesn't really need to ever go by your desk because his is right by the door. Instead of speaking, the blonde simply winks at you before doing a pose. It doesn't take you long to figure out what he's silently asking you. Grinning, you rummage through your bag and pull out 2 sparkly star stickers, putting one each of his cheeks. His smile grows in response. Merci, mademoiselle. As Aoyama returns to his desk, the rest of the class just stares uncomprehending for several seconds. Then, they react. What the hell? He didn't even do anything. What happened to the daily one-liner? More importantly, why the hell did he get 2? When you wave your hand to get their attention, they all quiet down, and you decide to explain yourself. He got 2 because he complimented me yesterday as well as today. Since I didn't see him yesterday, I gave him the sticker today instead. Zero holds up a hand. Wait a minute. How did he compliment you if he didn't even see you? And when did he compliment you today? He literally just walked through the door, and all he did was pose. If I wink at you like Aoyama-kun did, will I get a sticker too? You raise an eyebrow at Hagakure. Hagakure, I can't even tell when you're looking at me, let alone winking at me. Satu, along with several other students, snorts loudly at your response while Uraraka and Ishido start giggling. Remembering you haven't answered Zero's question, you return your attention to him. Aoyama texted me his compliment yesterday, so that's how I got 1 without me actually seeing him. He sent me a text today too, so that's why he got 1 as soon as he walked in. There's a pause before Kaminari and Mainta jump out of their desks. He has your number? Aoyama simply smiles as he elegantly flips his hair. Kaminari exaggeratedly points a finger at the other blonde. Why? Or better yet, how do you have her number? You smile in amusement. He asked for it. He said he wanted a way to contact me if he had any more homework questions. I wanted to help, so I gave it to him. Kirishima looks so touched. That's so nice of you, sensei. Jiru raises an eyebrow. So, let me get this straight. Aoyama asked for your number, claiming he wanted homework help. But he really wanted it so he could be the first person to compliment you every day. If he's already sent you one today, what time did he actually send it? Your smile grows as you give Aoyama a fond yet exasperated look. Midnight on the dot. I have no idea why you were up that late, or if you woke up just to send that text. I don't know if I should be worried about your sleeping schedule or impressed by your dedication to remain ahead of your classmates. Several students give the sparkly blonde an incredulous look. Midnight? Mainta clutches his head as he wails. How are we supposed to beat that? Meanwhile, Aoyama continues to smile, clearly enjoying everyone's reactions. In the back of the class, Uraraka is laughing boisterously, obviously finding this whole situation to be extremely hilarious. In front of her, you see Ada sporting a disapproving frown. While I understand asking for her number in order to ask for help with your studies, I cannot approve of you using it for such a frivolous reason. Aoyama-kun. Of course, his blonde classmate doesn't seem the least bit perturbed by the class president's annoyance. Our beloved sensei never said we couldn't send her compliments through text, Ida-kun. As long as she doesn't complain, it's fine, isn't it? His reaction makes you snort. You give Aoyama an amused look. You are very clever, Aoyama. I never thought you'd go this route, but it's true I don't really mind. It's not like it wakes me up. Plus, it is nice to wake up to such a sweet message every morning. He winks at you. I am most delighted that you enjoy my text, mademoiselle. I promise to continue my efforts to put a smile on your lovely face. You grin as you wag a finger at him. You're good. I'll give you that, but you're only getting 1 sticker a day for the compliments, so there's no use in buttering me up. Aoyama chuckles. I would never. I'm just speaking the truth. When you turn to look at the rest of the class, everyone is either giving him an impressed or exasperated look. Or in the case of Kaminari and Mainta, an envious one. Hey, sensei. At the sound of Uraraka's voice, you turn to see the brunette waving excitedly at you. Yes, she grins brightly. If I were to arrive at your room at midnight to compliment you, and you heard me before you got Aoyama-kun's text, would that mean I'd get the sticker instead? You pause to consider that question. Something like that happening never crossed your mind. As you're thinking, you miss the brief look of panic that crosses Aoyama's face. I never thought about that. I guess if I heard you before I heard the text go off, then it would be your win. But raising your eyebrow, you lean your head against your hand as you prop your elbow against the table. Are you really gonna come by my room and wake me up at midnight for a sticker? Her expression turns sheepish at that. Before she can respond, Ida starts making wild chopping motions with his hands. You mustn't, Eureka-kun. I understand wanting to compete with Aoyama-kun, but that's going too far. You mustn't disrupt Sensei's sleep schedule. So, what if someone besides just Aoyama sends you a text at midnight? How would you choose the winner? Everyone goes quiet at the sound of Todoroki's voice before they all turn to give him witty-eyed looks. Even Bakugo is looking at him incredulously. Todoroki blinks. What? This makes you laugh loudly. Those reactions are priceless. Everyone just looks so dumbfounded, unable to process that Todoroki, of all people, would get involved in these shenanigans. The stoic boy has never shown any interest in your stickers. Every time he got one on his papers, he'd just blankly stare at it. You never thought the day would come that he'd willingly join the competition. Bakugo is the one to voice what everyone else is thinking. Since when do you F-seeking care about stickers? Half and half. Todoroki just shrugs, looking as calm as ever. Just curious. It doesn't really matter to me either way who wins, but I was wondering how she'd respond if something like that did happen. Yayurazu rubs her chin thoughtfully. That is an interesting question. If multiple people were to send a message at the same time, Sensei would receive it simultaneously, would she not? Then, how would she declare the winner? All you can do is stare at the pair in amusement. Honestly, I'm half tempted to give anyone who texts me at midnight a sticker since that would require a lot of dedication. While I understand the appeal of stickers, I have no idea why anyone else would want to do the same thing as Aoyama. Kaminari starts waving his hand erratically. Sensei, can I have your number too? So, I can try to beat Aoyama and ask for homework help. You snort at his request. He's not even trying to be subtle. Sure. The offer for homework help by phone is open to anyone interested. Plus, I'm curious to see if someone can, in fact, beat Aoyama at his own game. That's when you get an idea. Oh, I know. If I get multiple compliments at midnight, I'll just judge based off the contents of the compliment. Maybe I'll ask you guys for your opinions, and we can vote on which one was the best. Ashido, Hagakure, and Uraraka cheer excitedly, obviously finding this idea entertaining. Because you're focused on them, you miss the calculative looks some of the other students are now wearing. At that moment, the bell rings, and Aizawa enters the classroom. As homeroom begins, you soon find yourself lost in thought. I wonder just how many people will try to beat Aoyama at his own game. Will they seriously wake up to send a text at midnight? Just to get a sticker? An amused smile rises to your lips. Guess I'll just have to wait and see. A few hours later, Nedzu contacts you via text while you're in the teacher's lounge. Apparently, All Might is running late for his class with the 1B students, so the principal wants you to drop by their classroom and let them know. Why he doesn't just contact their homeroom teacher you have no idea. But rather than question the hybrid, you agree to his request and head straight for the 1B classroom after letting Aizawa know the situation. Since you've never visited the classroom, it takes you a few minutes to find it. You actually almost pass by it. Just as you're about to stop and turn toward the door, it suddenly opens, making you jump in surprise. A hand shoots out from the half-open door and latches onto your wrist, pulling you inside before you can even think to fight back. 1 minute. You're standing in the hallway, and the next, you're sitting in the teacher's chair with the whole class watching you. The majority of the class is sitting except for Monoma and Tetsutetsu who are standing before you. You're pretty sure it was the former who originally grabbed you, but there was another set of hands involved in getting you in the chair which would explain Tetsutetsu's presence. One of the girls, the one with orange hair tied up in a ponytail, immediately jumps to her feet. If you remember correctly, she's the class president, Kendo Itsuka. Monoma, what the hell are you doing? You can't just drag her in here like that. Oasiosu, the boy with the headband, scratches his head. I gotta agree with Kendo on this one. If Vlad-sensei finds out about this, he'll be pissed. As several students nod in agreement, Monoma scoffs. It's fine. It's not like we're doing any harm. We're just going to ask her a few questions, that's all. You give him an incredulous look. Did you just admit you dragged me in here to interrogate me? Seriously? Tetsutetsu winces before quickly shaking his head. That's not it. You got it all wrong. The blonde before you crosses his arms as he narrows his eyes. What? Are class 1A students too good to answer a few questions now? One of the recommendation students, Takage Satsuna, looks between you and Monoma with wide eyes. Hey, Monoma. Calm down. That's not what she said at all. Shiozaki nods her head as she presses her hands together. This is very unsightly behavior. Monoma-san, please desist at once. As Kendo marches over to him, Monoma continues to glare at you. I've seen you walking around in the hallways even outside of class, not to mention that uniform of yours. You have a lot of nerve acting so high and mighty. Where did you even come from? No one recalls seeing you during the entrance exam, and we know you're not a recommendation student. All you can do is stare. Is he serious? He really thinks you're a student. A part of you really wants to laugh at the ridiculousness of this situation, but you miraculously manage to hold yourself back. Instead, a wide grin forms on your lips. Whoever said I was a student? At that, everyone freezes in place. One by one, their faces turn from surprised to horrified, with many ranging in between. Once you see that your words have sunk in, you add the final nail to the coffin. Grinning broadly, you rise to your feet and give the class a little bow. My name's In. I'm the Ta for Class 1A. It's a pleasure to meet you. There's a long pause before the class erupts into chaos. Holy CRP, Monoma kidnapped and interrogated a teacher. Monoma, you idiot, look what you've done. We're dead. We're so dead. Vlad-sensei is gonna kill us all. This is it. This is how I die. Oh, Heavenly Father, please forgive them for their sins. They know not what they have done. Well, it was nice while it lasted. What are the chances we'll get to survive this? It takes a tremendous effort not to laugh out loud as all the students start panicking and yelling at your big reveal. Shiozaki immediately starts praying for forgiveness, while nearby classmates look tempted to join her in hopes that it might help them too. Meanwhile, Kendo is shaking Monoma by his collar. I told you not to do it. I told you. Now, look what you've done. He just stares at you with wide eyes. That can't be true. Yua doesn't have Taz. You must be lying. The boy with the braided ponytail, Rin Huryo, just shakes his head. Monoma, please don't make the situation even worse than it already is. Shishida Jiroda and Shota Nyaranjeki both nod in agreement, while Tsunatori Pony keeps looking at you and the others with teary eyes. Are we in trouble? While Honuki Juzu tries to comfort the worried girl, Yanagi Ryuko simply nods. Yep. That doesn't make the horned student feel any better, and Takage scolds the other girl for being so blunt. Nearby, Fukadashi Manga, the boy with a speech bubble for a head, has several exclamation marks decorating his bubble as he panics alongside his classmates. The rest of the students are handling the matter much more calmly, but it's obvious that they're not too excited about this turn of events. Kumori Kanoko, in particular, looks pretty nervous as she squirms in her seat. In response to Monoma's declaration, you pull out your school ID so the students can see it. Everyone close by leans in to examine it, and their faces all pale once they read your title. Tetsu immediately bows his head low toward the ground. I'm sorry, Sensei, I know just an apology isn't enough, but I have to say it. What we did was very unmanly and not at all heroic. We deserve whatever punishment you give us, but please don't punish the others. It was only me and Monoma who acted out. They don't deserve to be punished for our mistakes. Kendo releases her hold on Monoma, who tries to catch his breath after being nearly strangled. Tetsu. Following his lead, the orange-haired girl bows her head. I want to take responsibility as well. I knew Monoma was up to something, but I acted too late. I'm sorry for how he treated you, Sensei. Tsunatori confusedly looks between her two classmates before bowing as well. Sorry, Sensei, spurred on by the three students. The rest of the class also bow their heads aside from Monoma, who's doing his best not to look at you. However, when he sees what his classmates are doing, he eventually follows their example. I apologize for my rude behavior, Sensei. I acted too hastily. I'll accept the full punishment since it was my idea in the first place. Okay, sounds like a plan. Before he or the others can react, you rush forward and grab Monoma by the cheeks. He winces when you start pulling strong. Wah, you smirk at his witty-eyed look. What? You did say you'd accept the full punishment. No take-backs, Monoma. Everyone else just stares in disbelief as you repeatedly pull on the blonde's cheeks without mercy. The silence is eventually broken by Kiwaro Shihai, who starts snickering, obviously finding Monoma's predicament hilarious. It's not long before several of the other students are joining him, most trying to hide their smiles behind their hands in a weak attempt not to get caught. After a few more minutes of this, you finally release the blonde, who immediately backs away from you and moves to rub his now sore cheeks. Sighing, you run a hand through your hair. Honestly, you guys need to work on your information gathering skills. I get I look more like a student than I do a teacher, but please get all your facts straight before making assumptions. If it were anyone but me, I'm sure the other person would be way more pissed, especially since the reason I came by your classroom in the first place was to tell you all about All Might running late. Even if you hadn't grabbed me, I was still gonna come in here to see you guys, so the kidnapping business could have easily been avoided. Once they hear that you would have come inside anyway, the students either sigh or shake their heads, realizing Monoma totally jumped the gun. The blonde in question just quietly huffs as he crosses his arms. With a shake of your head, you add, and please also consider just asking the person normally. Like walking up to them instead of dragging them into your classroom. Kendo gives Monoma another quick smack, making him wince. Understood, sensei. That's what we should have done from the start. While we considered that, Monoma believed it wouldn't work, so he wanted to take more drastic measures. You raise an eyebrow at him. Why the hell did you think it wouldn't work? Did you think I was gonna make you fight me for the information if you just walked up to me? Tsuburaba Kosai snorts loudly. No, but that would be freaking hilarious if you did. He just thought you'd brush him off rather than answer. Monoma averts his gaze. When we tried asking Vlad-sensei, he told us to find out the truth ourselves. That led me to believe it would not be a simple feat, so I thought we'd need to capture you. For several seconds, you just stare before eventually moving to pinch the bridge of your nose. Okay, so your teacher is partly at fault then. I'll be sure to bring this up later. I have no idea why he wouldn't just go ahead and tell you. Obviously, he also thought you needed to work on your information gathering skills. With a deadpan look, you add, I'd give this plan an F by the way. Kidnapping is not very heroic after all. Plus, it didn't seem like you really had anything planned for after you got me in here. Like, were you hoping you could intimidate me? At least, be more original, and have someone cute like Tsunatori ask me nicely. That would have been way more effective. Tsunatori blinks at the mention of her name. Me, smiling, you reply in English since you know that's her native language. Yes, you. You are absolutely adorable. Please never change. Her face brightens exponentially as she responds in kind. Thank you. Your English is very good, sensei. Your smile grows at the compliment. Thank you. When Kodai Yui quietly raises her hand, you nod at her, and she asks, so, as long as we ask nicely, you'll answer our questions. You shrug your shoulders. Sure, why not? What did you want to ask me? It's at that moment you hear something roll across the floor. When you look down, you see what appears to be a small, gray marble. Tetsu hunches over to get a better look at it. What's that? Before he can finish the sentence, smoke starts pouring out of the marble, catching everyone else off guard. Within seconds, the smoke fills up the entire classroom. Coughing, you attempt to head for the door so you can open it. Before you can take a step toward that direction, however, something wraps around your CH-sen. When you look down, you're surprised to see a familiar set of glowing eyes. Dark Shadow? He grins. Hi, we're here to rescue you. Before you can question the Quirk, you feel yourself being lifted into the air and moved in the direction of the door. In a flash, you're in the hallway, watching as Yayurazu shuts the door behind you while Shiro uses his tape to seal it. Unsurprisingly, Takoyami is also there, motioning for the shadow creature to release you. Good work, Dark Shadow. You can release her now. While he does set you back on the ground, Dark Shadow decides to stick close to you by draping himself across your shoulders, much to his vessel's exasperation. Amused, you give the Quirk a chin scratch, making him rumble happily, before raising an eyebrow at your students. Not that I'm not grateful, but what are you guys doing here? Don't you have class? As the three students direct you back toward their classroom, Shiro replies, Kaminari saw you get grabbed by the 1B students when he was on his way back from the bathroom. When he told us the situation, we decided we had to come rescue you. President Mixensei said it was okay as long as we made a plan ahead of time and didn't send everyone. Yayurazu nods. We decided that the best course of action was to use a smokescreen to hamper their movements. That's why I made a smoke bomb to distract them. Dark Shadow grins proudly. It was my job to grab you while they were distracted. Those guys didn't see us coming, Shiro jabs a thumb at himself. And I was in charge of making sure they couldn't come after us by sealing the door. An amused grin forms on your face. Nicely done. I'm very impressed. But what about 1B? I kind of feel bad about leaving them like that since it was mainly Monoma's fault that I got grabbed. The dark-haired girl smiles. There's no need to worry. I'm sure by now they're opening the windows to let the smoke out. There are also air vents and the gap under the door as well, so it's not as if we've completely sealed off the room. Takoyami crosses his arms. It would be wise of them to learn from this experience. It's important to know how to pick one's battles. This time they chose the wrong one. Kidnapping Class 1A's Ta without expecting any form of retaliation was fool strongy of them. Shiro tilts his head curiously. So, why exactly did you get grabbed, sensei? I get that they don't really like us, but it's a little over the top to go after you because of that. Yayurazu frowns. I must agree. No matter how they feel toward us, I think they went too far this time. Your grin grows, instantly grabbing the students' attention. They thought I was a student in your class. Monoma wanted to know why I had a different uniform and didn't have to attend class like everyone else. There's a long pause before Zero snorts and Dark Shadow starts cackling. That's freaking hilarious. They didn't even know they grabbed a teacher. A small smile forms on Takoyami's beak. I imagine they were quite surprised when you pulled away the veil of darkness that had been blinding them all this time by revealing your true identity. Giggling, Yaoyorozu hides her mouth behind her hand. It must have been an interesting sight for you to witness. You laugh. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. As soon as I introduced myself, it was literal mass chaos. You should have seen their faces. Zero keeps snickering. I wish I could have. Man, you should have taken pictures. Sensei, you gotta memorialize moments like that. That's when the four of you arrive back at the one classroom. As soon as you enter, the rest of the class cheers excitedly, realizing the plan was a success. Amused, you look at Present Mike, who's grinning broadly. Hey, good job, young listeners. You accomplished your mission. Were you able to catch the other class by surprise? Grinning, Zero gives him a thumbs up. They didn't see us coming. Yaoyorozu and Midoriya's plan went perfectly. The two students mentioned blush at the praise, making you grin at the cute sight. It was very impressive. You caught me by surprise just as much as the 1B kids. No doubt they're very confused right now. Kaminari pumps his fist into the air. Serves them right. No one kidnaps our teacher and gets away with it. Your CH sync grows warm when the rest of the class yells out in agreement. Honestly, these kids are way too cute. With a warm smile, you pull off your backpack and start digging through it. All right. Guess it's time for some rewards. Gotta celebrate such a successful rescue mission, right? Once again, they're all cheering, now celebrating getting candy in addition to their big success. First, you reward your rescuers, Dark Shadow included, before you start going around giving everyone else a treat. You also give some to Present Mike since he was the man who orchestrated the whole thing, apparently finding this situation way too entertaining to ignore. When you reach Midoriya, you ruffle his hair, making him blush. I should have known you played a role in the planning somehow, Midoriya. That's kinda your specialty after all. He smiles shyly. I only gave a few suggestions here and there. Yaoyorozu was the one who came up with most of it. Of course, Yaoyorozu is quick to say that Midoriya contributed just as much as her. The girl's honest praise just makes him flush more. He's seriously way too adorable. When you reach Todoroki, he tells you that his plan was to simply freeze the whole class so they couldn't interfere while he and the others grabbed you. It takes you a few minutes to stop laughing after that because you could easily picture him doing that. His deadpan DLVRY of those words just makes it all the more hilarious. Around that time, the bell rings, signaling the end of English class. While it doesn't seem like the class actually did much English work today, Present Mike doesn't seem to mind. He just took this opportunity to teach them English vocabulary related to kidnapping. Why he has a lesson plan revolved around that subject you have no idea, but it definitely suited today's situation perfectly. After the two of you arrive at the teacher's lounge, you notice that Aizawa is still there. Vlad King, Midnight, and 13 have also joined him during your absence. Your gaze quickly focuses on the 1B homeroom teacher. Present Mike notices this and immediately starts grinning, earning him a curious look from Midnight. As he goes to sit with her, you approach Vlad King's desk. Vladson, your class just attempted to kidnap and interrogate me during this last PRD. Would you please explain to me why you didn't warn me ahead of time that I was a part of your lesson plan? That's the only reason I can come up with for why you just didn't tell them who I was. They what? At the sound of Aizawa's flat tone, you turn to see him staring at the other homeroom teacher with narrowed eyes. You smile reassuringly. It's all right, Aizawa-san. Mixon sent out Wanna to rescue me, so it all ended nicely. Judging by Midnight's laughter, Present Mike must be explaining in great detail what exactly transpired during the last PRD. When you return your attention to Vlad King, you see him tiredly rubbing his eyes. It was Monoma, wasn't it? Yep. You reply, popping the P for emphasis. He thought I was a student, and apparently didn't appreciate me acting all high and mighty. The BLD hero sighs. I was hoping this would teach them about how to gather information on their own. Honestly, I thought they'd go the obvious route and just ask you. But of course, they can't do things the easy way. Did you punish them? You grin at Aizawa's question. Yep. Pulled on Monoma's cheeks for a few minutes, and then I scolded the class. As soon as they realized who I was, they all started panicking. I didn't feel like being too strong on them since the sight was absolutely hilarious. Wish I had taken a picture of it. You know, your eyes fall on Midnight, who's wearing a large smirk. The principal has cameras in every classroom. He probably has a video recording of what happened. For several minutes, everyone pauses to absorb that information. Then, you start briskly walking toward the door. I suddenly need to make a visit to the principal's office. Please excuse me. In an instant, Present Mike and Midnight are both on their feet, following right behind you. Surprisingly enough, Aizawa moves to join your group as well. When you raise an eyebrow at him, the underground hero just shrugs. I need to see how well the rescue operation went. You and Mike are too nice, so I need to observe what happened with my own eyes before I grade them for it. Vlad King also decides to join when he notices his rival head for the door. Meanwhile, 13 remains at her desk, quietly chuckling at the sight of everyone rushing out the door. Unsurprisingly, Nedzu is expecting your group. I knew you'd come by soon enough. I already have the videos ready along with some tea. Please help yourself. By the end of the viewing, you, Present Mike, and Midnight are howling with laughter at the sight of the panicking Class 1B students, while Vlad King is just scowling, no doubt already planning on how to punish his class for their misconduct. Meanwhile, Aizawa and Nedzu are watching everything closely, wearing small amused smiles as they analyze the kidnapping and rescue attempts. All in all, it's just another fun day at UA.